Chapter 385. It was the next morning when he saw the female owner. As usual, the female owner brought along two servants to Wang Sheng's door and asked to see him. The two maid servants happily welcomed their former master into the room. The difference was that the two unfamiliar guards also followed into Wang Sheng's courtyard. They just waited in the courtyard respectfully. However, Wang Sheng was very clear that whatever they said in the room at this time, the two guards could basically hear it. The female owner was still wearing a veil, as usual. The white veil contrasted with her skin color, making her eyes look exceptionally beautiful. Wang Sheng sighed in his heart. It was a pity. Although she was beautiful, she was also a little more seductive. The eyes of the girl in his dream made his heart beat even more. When do we set off? Wang Sheng seemed to be able to read something from the female owner's eyes, so he didn't waste any more words and just asked her a question. Tomorrow. The female owner also saw the look that Wang Sheng sent her. She smiled in relief, and her tired eyes regained some vigor. Have a good sleep today. Get your men to prepare according to the standard of entering the grounds of despair. We will meet outside the city gate tomorrow morning. Remember that iron rule. Wang Sheng still did not say any nonsense. He neatly set the time with the female owner and sent her out. The two of them did not even exchange more than 5 sentences when they met. Not to mention the two guards that the female owner brought along. Even the two servants that had been serving Wang Sheng for a long time did not understand what the two of them were talking about. Of course, the literal meaning was still clear. It was nothing more than the female owner informing them of the time to set off and Wang Sheng asking them to prepare. There was nothing unusual. After sending off the female owner, Wang Sheng sat alone in his room and slowly pondered. He originally thought that this trip would be relatively easier. He did not expect the female owner's condition to be so bad. The last time Wang Sheng saw the female owner, the spirit in her eyes had all disappeared. What Wang Sheng saw was only a frustrated woman who looked disheartened and tired. If it was not for the sudden glimmer of light in the female owner's eyes when she looked at Wang Sheng would have thought that the female owner had completely given up. The female owner had clearly sent a lot of important information to Wang Sheng during this trip. First of all, the female owner wasn't free to move around at this time. This could be seen from the fact that the two guards are following her all the time. Second, the female owner was under a restriction. It was unknown whether it was poison or formation. Anyway, she did not dare to easily resist. Even in the inner city of Carefree City, she did not dare to act rashly. Wang Sheng had clearly and slowly told the female owner that he had received a message from Lu Wenho of the Imperial Treasury. Obviously, this news was the reason why the female owner was completely relaxed. As long as Wang Sheng really nodded and was willing to help, the female owner still had a chance. It was just that the female owner personally went to Wang Sheng's house to inform him of the departure date. This action made many people in Baoqing Yutang nervous. What did the two of them talk about? Would it affect their plan? It was not until they heard the contents of the conversation reported by the two guards that the highly nervous people became restless. In the end, they still could not be at ease. However, this time, Baoqing Yutang's mission was announced to be led by the female owner. Thus, they could not stop the female owner from interacting with Wang Sheng. After all, after entering the grounds of Thousand Despair, they had to let the two of them meet and talk no matter what. Although they had already placed a restriction on the female owner and made various precautions, they were still afraid that something unexpected would happen before they set off. As for after entering the grounds of Thousand Despair, it was a different matter. The female owner came back and fell asleep without doing anything. As for the message, it was passed on by the two guards. The group of people even studied Wang Sheng's words for a while. They were overly suspicious, a typical sign of a guilty conscience. Wang Sheng cultivated peacefully for a day. The next morning, he prepared everything and walked out of the gate of the worry-free city that faced the grounds of Thousand Despair. Baoqing Yutang's men were already ready. The female owner led the team of more than 50 people. Among them, there were about a dozen of them who were obviously experts of the 6th or 7th degree realm. The rest were a little messy. Wang Sheng even saw the shopkeeper of Baoqing Yutang's original worry-free city and the shopkeeper of Upper Forest City. There were more than a dozen of such people. Without asking, they must be the female owner's confidants. The female owner's faction had been wiped out from top to bottom and banished to the grounds of Thousand Despair. If they could find the ruins and the elixir, they might have a chance of survival. If they couldn't, they would probably die in the grounds of Thousand Despair. This was what Wang Xing thought. But when he saw the murderous intent from one or two of the experts, he heaved a sigh of relief. The female owner and himself were too kind. The other party had never thought of giving them a way out. No matter if they could find the elixir or not, they were destined to die in the grounds of Thousand Despair. Wang Sheng understood that the other party didn't want to bear the reputation of killing their own people. So they made use of the female owner's relationship with him to see if they could find the ruins and elixir. If they found it, it would be the credit of the new owner of Baoqing Yutang. If they couldn't find it, it didn't matter. At least they could keep the eyesore in the grounds of Thousand Despair and maintain the good reputation of the new owner. Wang Xing actually didn't want to get involved in the internal affairs of these big families. But the map in the female owner's hands attracted Wang Sheng. For the sake of the girl in his dreams, Wang Sheng had to get involved. Do you understand the rules? Wang Sheng walked to the front of Bao Qing Yutang's group. He didn't look at the female owner and asked a few experts. Understood. The one with the highest cultivation replied with a smile, "You can't do what you don't want to do. Lone Wolf, if you have any instructions after entering the grounds of Thousand Despair, you can call me Flying Fox." Okay, Flying Fox. Wang Xing called him Flying Fox. This was definitely not his real name. It was just a code name like the assassins in Worry-Free City. We'll follow the path to the camp first and then set off from there. Although it's more than 100 miles away, we can save a few days. Is there a problem? You decide how to go. Flying Fox replied with a smile. He gave Wang Sheng the impression that he was an easy person to talk to. Next, Wang Sheng carefully inspected the equipment of everyone in the team. Bao Qingyu Hall sold protective clothing, and everyone had a set. Even the female owner had changed into a set, but she still had a veil on her face and a bamboo hat on the outside. Not to mention the experts. Even the fat shopkeepers had a machete in their hands. It seemed that they had done their homework. Let's go. Wang Sheng saw that there was no problem. He waved his hand, and the group set off on the path to the Imperial Treasury's camp. Chapter 386. In Worry-Free City, or even the whole world, there are only 3 people who could not follow the dates set by the Imperial Treasury and the Lord of Worry-Free City. One was the Lord of Worry-Free City, the other was Lu Wenho, and the last one was Wang Sheng. Because Baoqing Yutang had hired Wang Sheng, they were able to enjoy this privilege. Fortunately, the jealous people outside knew that Baoqing Yutang and the others were definitely not going to the camp to cultivate, so they did not jump out to provoke them. From the moment Wang Sheng appeared to the moment they set off, Wang Sheng and the female owner did not make eye contact, let alone talk. The female owner seemed to be very reserved, as if she had become a lady who did not go out in one day and did not talk to men. Wang Sheng would look for Flying Fox if he needed anything. He never contacted the female owner, not even the shopkeepers who he had dealt with before. This attitude made Flying Fox very satisfied. He and the people he brought had been on guard, fearing that Wang Sheng would make trouble. After all, Wang Sheng and the female owner had business dealings, and they could be considered friends. If Wang Sheng stood on the side of the female owner, their plan would probably have more twists and turns. A group of more than 50 people walked carefully on the passage, all the way to the camp. The passage had been cleaned up by the previous team, and it looked more and more like a road. Everyone walked on it. They did not dare to say that they were swaggering, but compared to the cautious people who entered the place of Thousand Despair in the past, everyone was simply enjoying themselves. Wang Sheng took the lead and walked all the way as if he was not on guard. Then there were 2 or 3 experts, followed by ordinary guards, and then the female owner and the shopkeepers. Finally, there were a few experts who brought up the rear. The team kept a distance of about 50 meters and walked along the road at a steady pace. After passing by 2 temporary camps, no one noticed that in the dark forest, a few pairs of eyes were staring at the passing team, and they gave way without making the slightest movement. The same experience happened at least 3 times without the people in the team knowing. These 3 groups of people did not seem to know each other's existence, and just secretly followed Bao Qing Yutang's team. In a few days, they arrived at the camp. Because the road was smooth, there was basically no major incident. However, 2 shopkeepers with low cultivation were bitten by a few small insects when they were resting on the side of the road. However, after Wang Sheng looked at them, he said that it was no big deal, and they could continue marching after a short rest. Because Wang Sheng had behaved normally before, no one noticed that one of the 2 bitten shopkeepers was the fat shopkeeper, who was Wang Sheng's acquaintance in Shanglin City. There must be something wrong with the fat shopkeeper's body, but when Wang Sheng secretly used the 9 secret words on him, the fat shopkeeper's eyes almost burned. Fortunately, he kept his head down, as if he was looking at the place where he was bitten, so no one noticed anything wrong. After this inspection, Wang Sheng could already confirm that the female owner and the fat shopkeeper had been poisoned, but it was not the time for the poison to act up yet. It was estimated that after everyone found the ruins, whether or not they found the elixir, the female owner and the others would all die from the poison. At that time, if the elixir was found, it would be the credit of the new owner, and if it was not found, the female owner and her group of eyesores would be killed. As for Wang Sheng, would they let him go? Wang Sheng thought of a problem. At this moment, no one was stupid enough to kill him in the grounds of despair, unless it was a death warrior. Was Bao Qing Yutang not afraid that he would spread rumors after he went out? Or did they have other plans? Wang Sheng did not do anything all the way to the camp. Bao Qing Yutang's people were also able to see the true face of the camp. For a moment, Wang Sheng saw that at least half of the people in the team revealed a covetous look at the camp. Unfortunately, no matter how much they coveted it, it was the property of the imperial treasury, and they would not share it with Bao Qing Yutang. For Wang Sheng's sake, the camp set aside a place for them to settle down, but none of the surrounding stone rooms were given to them. Bao Qing Yutang did not care about this, and everyone rested in the camp for a day. After replenishing their food and water, they once again embarked on their journey to find the ruins. This time, there was basically no way out from the camp. It was only at this time that Wang Sheng saw Bao Qing Yutang's map. The moment Wang Sheng received the map, his heart was really shaken, but Wang Sheng still acted as if nothing had happened, quietly looking at the map and listening to Flying Fox's explanation. This animal skin map of Bao Qing Yutang was almost exactly the same material as the map that Wang Sheng saw in the Sure family sealed 4 elements exquisite seal box. Even the strokes of the lines on it were similar. After a rough observation, Wang Sheng was sure that the 2 maps were not the same, but perhaps they were drawn by the same person. After quietly observing for a while, Wang Sheng roughly estimated the distance and direction in his heart. The straight-line distance was about 300 miles, and this was a dense forest. If they encountered a powerful demon beast, they would probably have to take a longer detour. After confirming with Flying Fox whether to fight or go around the demon beast if they encountered it, they came to the conclusion that they would have to go around. Flying Tiger and the others would definitely not be willing to risk their lives for the female owner. This was the land of thousand despair, and if they really encountered a powerful demon beast, it would not be worth it to get injured, let alone die. Wang Sheng led the team forward with difficulty, and in the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. When it was almost evening, Wang Sheng found a suitable place to set up camp. The group of people started to set up camp, and even the few shopkeepers were much more agile after these few days of training. Setting up camp before the sky turned dark was something that could not be helped. Wang Sheng only realized it after spending a long time with the old Taoist to the mountain wall. In this spirit world, 8 out of 10 people had night blindness, no matter how high their cultivation was. Even the old Taoist was no exception. Once night fell, they would not be able to see anything, just like a blind person. Not setting up camp would be courting death. Of course, Wang Sheng would not have such a problem, nor would he say it out loud. This kind of advantage might come in handy one day. Now, because of this, everyone had to set up camp. The temporary camp was very suitable. If it was not a little small and could only accommodate a few dozen people, It would be comparable to the camp in the Imperial Treasury. Because of this, Flying Fox and the others also slept very soundly after arranging people to be on guard. No one noticed that there was one or a few small bugs lurking around everyone. Even those who were not sleepy fell into a deep sleep after being bitten by a bug. Those who were sleepy slept even more deeply. In the entire camp, only the female owner and Wang Sheng did not sleep. Chapter 387. Wang Sheng walked past the sleeping experts, not even sparing them a glance, until he reached the female owner, who was staring at the scene in disbelief. Your family sure is ruthless to you. Wang Sheng casually picked up a wooden stump and placed it across the female owner before sitting down. The female owner was still immersed in the shock of seeing so many experts in a deep sleep. She looked at Wang Sheng, then at the experts who were snoring soundly, then at Wang Sheng, then at those experts. Her face was filled with disbelief. That's right. Stop looking. Wang Sheng's voice came from opposite the female owner. They won't wake up no matter how much you look. How did you do it? The female owner asked in surprise. Their cultivation level is much higher than yours. This is the land of thousand despair. Wang Sheng could not help but reiterate where they were. He said confidently, if it was outside, I would not be their match. But here, I can casually kill them 100 times over. I knew it was the right choice to look for you. The female owner finally had a smile in her eyes. She let out a long sigh of relief, and her tone was indescribably relaxed. I'm not a kind person. If you did not ask Lu and Ho to pass the message, I would have pretended that I never heard your request. Wang Xing acted as if he did not hear the female owner's relaxed tone. He said indifferently, in the end, it was just a business. You gave me a price, and I agreed. That's all. I understand. The female owner's eyes were very beautiful when she smiled. Even at night, under the light of the fire, her eyes were still very bright. Compared to when they met in Carefree City before they left, she was much more quick-witted. Actually, I thought about your words carefully. What you said made a lot of sense. Unfortunately, when I understood it, it was already too late. Before the outsiders could do anything, Bao Qing Yutang had already taken action. Your family is really cruel. They can even use such a heavy hand on their own family. Wang Sheng casually repeated what he had said before. Were you all poisoned? They are not my family. The female owner finally faced the problem directly. I'm at most an adopted daughter. Bao Qing Yutang wasn't mine from the beginning. I just needed to manage him for a while. So, she was an adopted daughter. No wonder she was immediately stripped of her authority as soon as she made some achievements and replaced with a direct descendant. In this way, it would not be a grudge between the rich and the powerful. At most, it would be a professional manager being dismissed by the board of directors. It would not even be a fight between the legitimate and the illegitimate. However, if they wanted to dismiss him, then dismiss him. Why did they want to put him to death? Wasn't this a little too intolerant? Understood. Wang Sheng smiled. After all, it had nothing to do with him. Actually, even if it's a family, for the sake of such a big family business, we have to make a move when it's necessary. Think about it this way. It's more balanced. At least you're enjoying the treatment of a real brother over there. The female owner was amused by Wang Sheng's words. Even though it happened to her, she couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of being treated like a brother. After laughing, it was as if all the sufferings they had suffered in the past few days had found an opening and were all vented out in unison. Inexplicably, the female owner felt that her body was much more comfortable. Even her spirit was lifted. Of course, at this time, the female owner did not realize that Wang Sheng had already used the Buddhist incantation of 9 words on her body, especially the lie word formula. It was simply the best way to deal with the patients who were poisoned. It was all thanks to Wang Sheng that she could feel so relaxed. What method did you use? I feel that the poison in my body has been slightly reduced. Finally, the female owner was not stupid. She quickly realized that it was Wang Sheng's method and asked, as long as it works, who cares what method he used? Wang Sheng did not intend to use the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. He casually brushed her off and then asked, what do you plan to do with these people? Everyone except for Wang Sheng and the female owner were in a deep sleep. At this time, it would not be difficult for Wang Sheng to kill all of them. In the land of thousand despair, it was normal for many people to die, wasn't it? It was obvious that the female owner had the intention to kill. However, when her gaze shifted to the shopkeepers who had worked hard for her, she suddenly asked, if those experts were to die, would these shopkeepers still be able to leave the land of thousand despair alive? It's not a big problem. Wang Sheng answered naturally. In the past, he definitely did not have this ability, and he did not dare to guarantee it. However, now that Wang Sheng had mastered the 8 words of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, to put it bluntly, he could even prevent a ferocious demon beast from attacking him. It would be very easy for him to bring a dozen or so people with low cultivation bases out of the land of thousand despair. Listening to Wang Sheng's answer, the female owner pondered for a while. Suddenly, she raised her head and asked, say, if I can find the ruins and find the things inside, will Bao Qing Yutang let us go? Wang Sheng looked at the female owner as if she was an idiot. He was too lazy to answer her question. Looking at Wang Sheng's expression, the female owner also knew that she had asked a stupid question. What if I rely on the things inside and start from the beginning? The female owner asked another question. You will die even faster than you did this time, Wang Sheng replied without raising his head as he stared at the campfire in front of the two of them. Relying on Bao Qing Yutang could be considered as having a big tree to rely on, starting from the beginning, but relying on the female owner and the dozen or so shopkeepers. He did not have any martial power or influence. What he had in his hands was the divine elixir produced from the ruins of the land of thousand despair that everyone wanted. What was the difference between this and a baby carrying a gold ingot in a bandit's den? Actually, this was not a problem. It was just that the female owner was a little unwilling and did not want to admit defeat. If you want to deal with Bao Qing Yutang, you actually don't need to spend much effort. Wang Sheng smiled. As long as we go out and sell the method to make the snow candy and refined salt to any of the vassal states, Qingyu Hall will have to bear the consequences even if we can't eat it. Bao Qing Yutang will also deal with you. Don't you understand? The female owner suddenly asked. Then why don't you sell the recipe for snow candy and refined salt to others? One must be trustworthy in order to survive. Wang Sheng smiled and said, I promised you that I would give you an exclusive business. I'm a man of my word. I'm a businessman, so I have to be trustworthy. The female owner also smiled and replied, if I smash my reputation and don't have trustworthiness, who would want to do business with me in the future? The female owner's words made Wang Sheng look at her in a new light. It was obvious that Bao Qing Yutang wanted her life, but she could still put her trustworthiness as a businessman first. Could it be that this woman was born to be a businessman? Chapter 388. Don't think about the future. Wang Sheng stared at the female owner for a while before lowering his head to fiddle with the fire. At the same time, he asked, you won't be able to pass this hurdle. What should we do with these people? Back to the original question, the female owner seemed to have an idea this time. She asked, will there be any problems if you protect so many of us to search for the ruins alone? This time, Wang Sheng wasn't as confident as before. He didn't answer and shook his head directly. Bringing them out was bringing them out, and searching for the ruins was searching for the ruins. One was actively escaping danger, and the other was actively approaching danger. Those were two different things. Let's keep them for now. The female owner sighed and said, with them around, they might be able to contribute in the ruins. If my people are in danger, they might be able to save a few more people. I can guarantee that if something happens to your people, even if they are standing beside you, they won't help you. Wang Sheng still sighed. If we don't take this risk, we will die if we go out. What else can we rely on? The female owner lowered her head, as if she didn't want to talk about this matter. If it was someone who knew what was going on, he would immediately pat his chest and take responsibility for everything. Maybe he would be able to win the heart of the beauty immediately. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng was like an unromantic wooden man. He didn't realize anything and didn't even say a word. This made the female owner curse in her heart for a long time, but she had to admit that Wang Sheng was a really smart person. Since the female owner had decided to continue the exploration, Wang Sheng didn't care much about what would happen next. At most, he could guarantee that nothing would happen to the female owner when she was by his side. As for the others, Wang Sheng could only take care of a few that he had dealt with before. The rest could only depend on their luck and fend for themselves. The people on the female owner's side were all poisoned and controlled. Wang Sheng used the lie word formula on each of them a few times. It wasn't to detoxify the poison immediately, but to slightly reduce the poison in them so that they could last until the day he got the antidote. There was no need to think about a large-scale detoxification. Wang Sheng had plenty of cleansing heart pills, and he would definitely be able to resolve it with his lie word formula. However, if he took the cleansing heart pill to expel the toxins, he would have diarrhea, and people would definitely be able to tell at a glance. Wang Sheng didn't forget to give each of the experts who had fallen asleep a lie word formula. This way, when they woke up, they would feel that their bodies were abnormally good and full of energy. Even the traces of insect bites on their bodies would disappear. This would also cover up the reason why they fell asleep. The female owner was of utmost importance. Wang Sheng's efforts on her were definitely more than anyone else's. This also improved the female host's previously poor physical condition by at least one-fold overnight. Unfortunately, no matter how effective the lie character formula was, it was impossible for her to completely recover in one night. But at least now, she was almost like an ordinary person. When it woke up in the morning, the flying fox suddenly realized that something was wrong. It jumped up and looked around vigilantly. When his companions saw him jumping up so violently, they all burst into laughter. This put Flying Fox's heart back into his stomach. It seemed that he was a little tired yesterday and accidentally fell asleep. Stretching, Flying Fox found that his body was abnormally relaxed, and there was such a refreshing feeling. It seemed that this sleep had not only rejuvenated him, but it should also have led to a slight improvement in his cultivation. No wonder the people in the Imperial Treasury's camp were now flocking to it. Just one night of sleep had such an effect. What would happen if he lived for half a year? It wasn't only Flying Fox who felt this way. Every expert who woke up in the morning felt the same way. Of course, no one would suspect that they were being tampered with. They just thought that they were too tired in the land of thousand despair in the past few days, and there were friends and guard around them, so they slept like a log. In addition, it had a lot to do with the safety of the camp where they camped at night. When everyone woke up, they felt as if their cultivation had advanced. This feeling of surprise quickly diluted the reason why they had fallen asleep. In everyone's heart, they also began to envy the Imperial Treasury's camp. Among the expert guards, there was a middle-aged man who was usually very low-key and diligent. At this moment, his face was like everyone else, showing a happy smile, as if he was also happy for the change in his body's cultivation. However, in his heart, there was already a chill. No one knew his true identity. Even Flying Fox didn't know. He was actually not Bao Qing Yutang's man, but a killer from the Godly Might prison. Someone went to the Godly Might prison and asked them to send a killer to kill Wang Sheng. Originally, the Godly Might prison did not want to accept this business. The target was Wang Sheng, and the location was in the land of Thousand Despair. This could almost be said to be a suicide mission. However, the price offered was high, and no one knew what benefits were promised, which tempted the higher-ups of the Godly Might prison. The killer's name was Black Snake, which was his code name. He was also a senior killer in the Godly Might prison. Unlike the killers in Worry-Free City who were differentiated by ranks, the killers of the Godly Might prison never differentiated by ranks. Their identities were secretive. Usually, other than familiar friends or superiors and subordinates who knew their identities, no one else knew their killer identity. Black Snake did not kill many people, but every one of them was an expert. However, there had never been a time when he was as afraid as today. Those idiotic guards of Bao Qing Yutang all thought that he had fallen asleep because he was tired, but Black Snake did not think so. He had always been very vigilant, and there was a record of not sleeping for a few days and nights. Especially when he was about to carry out a mission, Black Snake would not easily let himself fall into a passive position. The problem was that Black Snake fell asleep last night without any warning. After he woke up, He did not feel that he had been plotted against, as if everything was normal. However, the more it was like this, the more afraid Black Snake was. Someone who could make him fall asleep without a sound could definitely make him die without a sound. Other than Wang Sheng, no one could do this in the land of Thousand Despair. Black Snake had never felt that death was so close to him. It could be said that it had completely brushed past him. It was Wang Sheng who deliberately let them go. Otherwise, it was uncertain whether they would have woken up this morning. Black Snake was not sure if Wang Sheng had discovered him, but he also knew that this was not important to Wang Sheng. That was because the two murderous idiots in Bao Qing Yutang's team had clearly told Wang Sheng their purpose. So once Wang Sheng decided to make a move, he would definitely kill them all. He could either continue the mission, but the possible outcome would be eternal damnation. He could also give up the mission and immediately find a chance to escape. Although the land of Thousand Despair was dangerous, it did not mean that there was no chance of survival. In short, Black Snake sadly discovered that the probability of successfully assassinating Wang Sheng and escaping from the land of Thousand Despair alone was the same, and both were so slim. Chapter 389. After a few more days of arduous journey and the loss of a fifth-degree realm expert bodyguard, the group of them finally arrived at a mountainous area, utterly exhausted. "We're here." Standing on top of a small hill, Wang Sheng's voice was filled with fatigue as he spoke to Flying Fox weakly. "We're here." Flying Fox was shocked. He looked around blankly, unable to believe his eyes. The people around him were also shocked when they heard this. They were surrounded by a dense forest. Everywhere they looked were trees, small trees, vines, shrubs, and weeds. How would it look like a ruin? Someone immediately asked in disbelief. "Nonsense. If the ruin is the same as the place you live, why not call it cottage? Why do you call it a ruin?" Wang Sheng answered the guy's question impatiently. He then turned to Flying Fox and said, "If your map is correct, the ruin should be around a few dozen miles away. A radius of several dozen kilometers?" Flying Fox looked around and frowned. The few of them were not enough to search a few dozen miles away. But no one could blame Wang Sheng. The map was just a few lines. The horizontal and vertical scales on it were all wrong. It was simply a dream to rely on this map to estimate the exact location. Only someone like Wang Sheng, who was familiar with the Thousand Extremities grounds, would be able to lead them to the correct location. Even so, this was an area of several dozen li. It was impossible to find the exact location in a short time. "You're not fooling us, are you?" one of the experts asked suspiciously. Although the others didn't say anything, they all looked at Wang Sheng with the same skepticism in their eyes. "If the map is correct, it should be nearby." Wang Sheng ignored the guy's doubts and said to Flying Fox. After saying that, he did not forget to call out to the female owner. "We're here. See how you guys can find it." Flying Fox's brows furrowed like a knot. At that moment, he did not care about what Wang Sheng and the female owner were talking about. He just looked at the map and did not say a word. Undeserved reputation. Seeing that Wang Sheng was ignoring him, the guy's expression changed and he muttered in a low voice. Although he seemed to be speaking in a low voice, many people around him, including Wang Sheng, could hear him clearly. Wang Sheng's eyes suddenly turned cold, and he stared at that guy for a while. The doubting fellow stared back at Wang Sheng, not backing down in the slightest. For some reason, Flying Fox, who was nearby, was frowning, as if he didn't see what was going on. Sneering coldly, Wang Sheng finally opened his mouth and said, "Whether or not I have an undeserved reputation, you just need to circulate your cultivation base and stomp on the ground a few times to find out." Everyone turned to look at the ground in unison. However, this area was full of woods and grass. It was not much different from the place they had come from along the way. Was there any difference between stomping and not stomping? The person who questioned him raised his head and sneaked a glance at Flying Fox. Although Flying Fox's gaze was not in that direction, he seemed to have felt his companion's gaze and nodded slightly without batting an eyelid. Under everyone's gaze, the seventh-degree realm expert who questioned him snorted coldly, raised his leg high, circulated his cultivation base, and stomped down hard. With a loud bang, The surrounding ground seemed to have been hit by a huge hammer. Wang Sheng was standing so far away, but he could feel the vibration of the ground. The surrounding trees were shaking nonstop, and leaves fell to the ground. However, other than this, there was no other movement. Everyone's puzzled gaze turned to Wang Sheng. Very good, continue. Wang Sheng's expression did not change, and he said with a hint of ridicule. He had clearly said to stomp a few times, but it was only one. Did these people not know how to count? The person who questioned him looked at Wang Sheng and then looked down at his feet. The ground under his feet had already been stomped into a huge pit by the expert, and all sorts of messy tree roots and grass were exposed. There was nothing out of the ordinary. With a deep sense of doubt, the person who questioned him raised his leg again and stomped hard on the ground. After another round of movement, the person who questioned him stomped his foot for the third time. Boom! This time, it was not the sound of a bang, but the sound of something collapsing, mixed with the scene of a pile of fallen trees. A huge pit instantly appeared at the place where the person who questioned him was. He was already gone, and the surrounding wood and stones were still collapsing madly. After a while, a large pit with a circumference of several feet appeared in that area, and the pit was filled with collapsed stones and fallen trees. 3 experts at the side were affected, but they were lucky. When this area collapsed, they realized that something was wrong and hurriedly jumped up. Although they were hit by some branches, it was precisely because of this that they were able to use their hands and feet to escape the area. But the person who stomped his foot in the middle was nowhere to be found. When everyone came back to their senses, they then began to scramble to move the messy trees, stones, and sand away. The people who did it were all experts, and each of them had tyrannical strength. The big tree trunk was quickly chopped into small pieces and moved away, and the stones and sand were quickly dug away. But before they could dig more than a few feet from the bottom of the pit, water had already started to seep out. When he saw the water seeping out, Flying Fox sighed in his heart. There was no hope. He was buried underneath, submerged in water, and there were so many heavy objects pressing down on him. No matter how great his abilities were, he could not display them. As expected, after enduring the blisters and digging for a while, they finally found him. However, from the time the pit collapsed to the time they found him, it had already been an hour, close to 40 minutes. That 7th-degree expert who questioned Wang Sheng had long been buried under the soil and water, and there was no longer any signs of life. With Wang Sheng's current cultivation, he could only take a deep breath for 10 to 20 minutes, and this was already Wang Sheng's limit. If he exceeded this limit, no matter how great Wang Sheng's abilities were, he would not be able to survive. That expert's cultivation was much higher than Wang Sheng's, but it was too sudden, and it was unknown whether he could take a deep breath. In such a panic, he had to make various movements, and no matter how powerful he was, it was impossible for him to hold his breath for 40 minutes. If it was just sand, it might be possible. After all, there were gaps in the sand. Unfortunately, the bottom was filled with water, and there were no gaps at all. A dignified 7th-degree expert had been forcefully suffocated to death in a place like the ground of Thousand Despair, and he did not even have the chance to use his extraordinary abilities. No, he had used it. At least a few times he stomped his foot. It was quite powerful. Lone Wolf, don't you think you should have an explanation? Seeing their companions in such a state, Bao Qing Yu Tang's group of experts were all enraged. But their discipline was not bad, and at least they did not rush forward. Only Flying Fox asked in an unfriendly tone. Chapter 390. Explain what? Wang Sheng sneered and asked. I told you that we were there, but you doubted me and said that we weren't there. I proved it to you. That's all. What's there to explain? Wang Sheng looked at Flying Fox and suddenly laughed. Don't tell me that you didn't see or hear anything just now. Why did this place collapse? Why is there water? Flying Fox suppressed his anger and asked again. It's very simple. Wang Sheng looked like he was explaining to Flying Fox. I came for the water source. You're looking for the ruins of a sect that refined pills. To refine pills, you need good water. As long as you find a good enough water vein nearby, it's easy to determine the area. The water vein of an alchemy sect must be very important so they must have built a palace or something to protect it. It's impossible for it to be exposed, Wang Sheng said unhurriedly. Just now, we were standing on top of the building with the water vein. The place for refining pills can't be next to the water vein, but it can't be too far away either. That's why I said it's within a few dozen miles. Just now, they were standing on a small hill covered with trees, vines, and flowers. Who would have thought that it was not a hill, but a palace? Hearing Wang Sheng's explanation, everyone was stunned. However, now that they looked down, they could see that the sand aside, there were a few stones that were obviously very regular strips of stone. One look, and they could tell that it was man-made and not naturally formed. Everyone also saw some rotten wood. Basically, they could confirm that what Wang Sheng said was right. This place was really a palace a few hundred years ago. A few hundred years could really be said to be a lot of changes. A palace that was used to protect the water source had turned into a hill. Moreover, it was a hill that was covered with all kinds of plants. It was impossible to tell that it was originally a palace. Even the traces of human activity had disappeared. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would have believed it? However, they had to believe it because the gushing spring water, rotten wood, and regular stones had already explained everything. If that wasn't enough, they could dig to the side, and they would be able to see the part of the palace that hadn't collapsed. But why didn't you tell me? Flying Fox's anger was at its peak. It was precisely because Wang Sheng did not say anything that all of this had happened. If it weren't for the fact that Flying Fox still had a use for Wang Sheng, he would have killed him himself. Didn't I tell you that we're here? Wang Sheng confidently said to Flying Fox. Is there something wrong with my ears? Or is there something wrong with your memory? Did I really not say that? Wang Sheng had indeed said that they had reached the destination. This was something that no one could deny. However, Wang Sheng said it so listlessly that no one thought that Wang Sheng was telling the truth. In that state, who would believe that Wang Sheng was telling the truth? Then why didn't you explain? Flying Fox forcefully suppressed his anger and asked angrily. He was speechless at Wang Sheng's words and could only find another reason. Explain. Wang Sheng looked at Flying Fox from head to toe for a while before letting out a loud laugh. Huh, explain? I'm not bragging, but all of you here, even if you add up all of you 10 times, you still don't understand the ground of despair better than I do. Wang Sheng Swan was enraged. His voice was unusually loud as he pointed at the Flying Fox and drew a circle. I'm not targeting any one of you. I'm pointing at all of you. All of you are trash. In the lands of 1,000 despair, you're not even worth a fart. Wang Sheng didn't care about the angry gazes of the group of experts. He pointed at them one by one. Explain? On what basis? Just based on a bunch of noobs like you? Explaining is a waste of time. Who does that guy think he is? How dare he question my professionalism in the ground of despair? Wang Sheng glared back at the group of enraged experts. Raising his voice, he said, Does he think he's worthy? His sudden loud voice caused everyone to tremble involuntarily. No one knew that this was the magical effect of Wang Sheng's 9 secret words mantra. Facing Wang Sheng, the group of experts with higher cultivation than Wang Sheng behaved like obedient grandsons. At this moment, no one dared to question him. It was as if they were all feeling guilty. Explain? On what basis do you need to explain? Wang Sheng softened his tone and asked again, There are 2 rules for following me into the ground of despair. The first is an iron rule that cannot be violated. Does anyone remember what the second rule is? The group of Baoqing Yutang experts looked at each other. Wasn't there only one iron rule? Where did the second rule come from? Everyone looked at each other. No one knew what to say. In the end, a fat shopkeeper raised his trembling hand. Seeing this, Flying Fox hurriedly asked, What's the second rule? The second rule is, this shopkeeper was originally the shopkeeper of Baoqing Yutang's branch in the ground of despair. At this moment, he nervously swallowed a mouthful of saliva and carefully replied, No explanation. Wang Sheng had indeed said that after entering the lands of despair, he would not explain himself to anyone. He would listen to whatever he wanted to hear. However, this was a rule set by Wang Sheng the first time he entered the ground of despair. Later on, Wang Sheng also relaxed this rule for several organizations. Therefore, the people of Baoqing Yutang must have thought that this rule had been abolished. Then why did you explain it to the imperial family and the people of Triumph Palace? Flying Fox was stunned. He also remembered that Wang Sheng really did have this rule. The problem was, he didn't think so beforehand. Because they paid the price. Wang Sheng asked in a cold, expressionless voice, "Before we set off, did any of you people from Bayo Kinji Hall say that you're going to give me a price for an explanation?" "No, at least I didn't see anyone. In addition, I remember that before we set off, I specifically asked if you knew the rules. How did you guys answer me?" The group of people were all stunned and speechless. At that time, everyone naturally said that they knew the rules, but now that they said it, it was so ironic. Then just now, why did you? Flying Fox didn't know how to respond and could only ask half a sentence resentfully. Even he didn't know what he wanted to ask. Since someone is willing to pay with his life, I don't mind letting him die knowing. Wang Sheng still didn't care and replied, "I'm in a good mood. So if any of you are still willing to pay with your life and want to know whether I live up to my reputation, I promise to give everyone an explanation after he dies." Chapter 391. No one said a word, and no one jumped out. Even if Flying Fox and the others already wanted to tear Wang Sheng into pieces, it was not the time to do so. Especially Flying Fox was very clear that it was easy to make a move. But what about after killing Wang Sheng? Don't be fooled by how easy it was to make a move along the way. And they did not even encounter a few high-level beasts, but everyone knew the reason. Even if they were to make a move, they would not dare to guarantee their own safety first. But at least they would have to see the item first, right? Everyone was clear about the purpose of coming in this time. The female owner wanted to rely on the things obtained from the alchemy ruins to make a comeback. And the new owner of the Imperial Treasury wanted to completely destroy the female owner's faction and swallow the benefits obtained from the ruins. Now that they were around the ruins, it would not be too late to make a move after seeing the item. With Wang Sheng and without Wang Sheng, the efficiency of the search was absolutely different. This had been proven by the death of the companion just now. Wang Sheng could find the water vein under everyone's nose that no one could find, and he could also find the ruins in a place that no one could see. Since we are here, let's look around. Before Flying Fox could speak, the female owner had already stood up and began to order, "Lone Wolf, if you are willing to help, after we get out, Baoqing Yutang can pay double the price. Convert into gold coins, how about that? Can you make the decision?" Wang Sheng looked at the female owner and suddenly asked with a smile. As he asked, he also looked at Flying Fox. Of course. At this time, the female owner seemed to have recovered the domineering attitude she had when she was the owner. Even Flying Fox could not help but nod when Wang Sheng looked over. Anyway, no matter how high the price was, it was meaningless to a dying man like Wang Sheng. So what if he agreed verbally? That was what Flying Fox thought. As for the female owner, it was the same logic. So what if he let her make the decision for once? Wang Sheng looked at the female owner for a while. When he turned to the Flying Fox, he didn't hide his disdain at all. He said slowly, "If I were you, I would simply dig up this palace and see where the door is." Flying Fox was stunned. Then, he came to a realization and almost slapped himself. The door was on the other side, and the road was on the other side, so he could determine the direction. Why didn't he think of such a simple logic? Do I need Wang Sheng to remind me? Fortunately, the offer of double the price was just a joke. Otherwise, wouldn't his heart ache to death? The female owner was also stunned for a moment, and then immediately laughed. She turned around and began to instruct her trusted shopkeepers to dig. The expert guards also joined in. It didn't take long before the water vein palace was excavated. As expected, there was an obvious door and stone stairs on one of the walls. Needless to say, this direction had the highest possibility of finding the ruins. A few experts cheered excitedly and began to search in that direction. Two of the shopkeepers also seemed to be happy, as if they had seen the hope of making a comeback. Unexpectedly, they rushed ahead of the guards and rushed to the front. Ouch! They got carried away. Not long after they rushed out, one of the shopkeepers fell to the ground, hugging his leg. But because he was anxious, he didn't pay attention to his feet. As a result, He tripped and fell flat on his face. They hadn't even found a ruins, and someone was already injured. The female owner was instantly put in a difficult position. If she brought this shopkeeper along, she was afraid that it would increase the burden on everyone. If she didn't, the shopkeeper would probably be in danger. She was in a dilemma. Half of this palace has collapsed, but there's still half left. Let's settle here first. Wang Sheng made a prompt decision and gave an idea. Since we have to search with this water vein as the center, let's use this as a temporary camp for the next few days. No one objected. No one knew how long it would take to search a few dozen miles in the dense forest. It was good to have a temporary camp. Flying Fox gave a look to one of the guards, and that guard volunteered to stay behind to take care of the injured shopkeeper. There was basically nothing special about the search. In the dense forest, even Wang Sheng couldn't tell if there were any signs of human activity at a glance. He could only rely on everyone's judgment. Dozens of people spread out and searched bit by bit. Someone occasionally found a few bricks or stone sculptures, which attracted Flying Fox and the female owner to come over and investigate. Unfortunately, after they found a few places in a row, they were all rejected by Wang Sheng after careful inspection. These places were just ordinary villages with a few households that definitely weren't the location of some sect. Inevitably, casualties began to appear. This kind of search process was practically fighting against the insects that were native to this large area. The experts were fine, but the few shopkeepers' cultivation was obviously not high enough for them to react fast enough, and they didn't have enough observation skills either. 5 of them were bitten by poisonous insects in a row. It was the same for the guards. 3 of them were bitten and poisoned, and one of them died because the poison took effect so quickly that he didn't have time to use the antidote. 2 of the guards were injured because of the 2 shopkeepers beside them. Among the 5 shopkeepers, 4 of them had completely lost their ability to move. Their faces were black and purple, and their mouths were foaming. One look, and it was obvious that they were deeply poisoned. The remaining one wasn't much better. At best, he was still conscious, but he couldn't move on his own. The 3 guards were slightly better off than them. They had high cultivation and strong resistance, and could still move. However, it was beyond their ability to continue searching. Flying Fox didn't have any good ideas for these injured people. He could only send 2 guards and the remaining shopkeepers to send them back to the water vein. These shopkeepers usually didn't have high cultivation, and their bodies were clumsy. They were simply a burden. If it wasn't for the fact that it wasn't time to kill them all, Flying Fox would have done it long ago. After sending the dozen or so shopkeepers to the water vein, the search team here immediately became much more capable. Flying Fox was quite satisfied with this arrangement. As long as he could ensure that the female owner's whereabouts were firmly under his control, it would be fine. The shopkeepers were not very important. Anyway, there were already 3 guards watching over them, so they could not do anything. The female owner was very worried about the lives of the shopkeepers, but in this kind of situation, she could only watch anxiously without being able to do anything. Flying Fox watched her very closely. The only thing the female owner could do was to pray for the injured and poisoned shopkeepers and hope that they would get better. Even Flying Fox didn't notice that when the female owner's gaze occasionally met with Wang Sheng's, there would be a hint of a smile passing through. Unknowingly, the shopkeepers had already left Flying Fox's line of sight. Chapter 392. The search party continued their search. After walking for more than 10 kilometers, an expert guard kicked a piece of charred rock in displeasure, attracting Wang Sheng's attention. Flying Fox, that rock has been burned, Wang Sheng reminded Flying Fox, who was not far away. Flying Fox's eyes lit up, and he darted out with a whoosh. The charred rock was still in the air when Flying Fox caught it in his hand, and he began to examine it carefully. Wang Sheng was right. The black color on the rock was not formed naturally, nor was it stained by something black. Instead, it was the kind of charred black that was formed after being burned by fire many times. Look around carefully. Wang Sheng once again gave orders in place of Flying Fox. Not only did Flying Fox not stop him, but he also joined the search party. Soon, the entire area was carefully searched, and during this time, 2 ordinary guards were bitten by some poisonous insects. Fortunately, They found traces of a large man-made structure here. Flying Fox's eyes lit up, especially when someone found two huge alchemy tools that looked like medicine cauldrons in two of the collapsed rooms. There were alchemy tools here, and it was obvious that pills had been refined here before. They could not say for sure that this was the relic they were looking for, but it definitely had something to do with it. It had been a few hundred years, and all the houses had collapsed. As long as it was a place where plants could grow, they would basically grow branches. The wooden furniture in the rooms had all turned into rotten wood, and even became nutrients for many new plants. Only a few rusted metal tools and weathered stone utensils were left. It was clear to everyone that this place had once been a glorious palace complex. Looking at this, Wang Sheng shook his head. Looking at this, forget about finding any pills. It would be good if anything was left behind. A few hundred years of wind and rain. Bystanders would definitely not be able to imagine the erosion of time. Everyone was disappointed once again. Although this palace complex had indeed been refined before, it was not the relic they were looking for. Boss Flying Fox, I want to know, how can you be sure that there are still pills in the ruins? When everyone was faced with the result of not being able to find anything, Wang Sheng couldn't help but ask if there is a protective array formation. Then quickly let the array formation masters take the lead to find the array formation fluctuations. If there is any other reason, just say it so that we don't have to waste time. As you can see, ordinary houses and palaces are basically like this. I don't think there's anything worth finding here. Wang Sheng's words were very reasonable. Even Flying Fox's subordinates looked at Wang Sheng and the female owner because of what he said. Since they were already here, wouldn't it be a waste of time to hide any clues? It was true that Flying Fox had a high cultivation level, but he had never encountered such a situation before. He couldn't help but look at the female host, as if asking for her opinion. That alchemy sect used to have a huge underground palace. After a moment of consideration, the female host finally said, the underground palace was built on the mouth of an earth fire vein. That earth fire vein was the key to that sect's alchemy skills being better than many other alchemy masters. Wang Sheng's eyes widened. Listening to these things was really an eye-opener. Even Wang Sheng was like this. Those guards who didn't know the inside story, whether they were experts or ordinary guards, all listened carefully for fear of missing out on any secrets. The so-called earth fire vein should be a small volcanic crater. Wang Sheng couldn't help but admire the courage of those alchemy masters hundreds of years ago. They actually dared to use a volcanic crater like this. However, when he was on Earth, Wang Sheng had seen with his own eyes some volcanic craters that were not very active but always maintained liquid lava. Under the premise of safety, it was not unusual for them to be used. That sect paid a huge price to build a huge underground palace around the earth fire vein. Since the female host had already said it, she didn't have any scruples. She simply said everything. The stone underground palace is unusually strong, and it will not be eroded by wind and rain. In addition, with the protection of the array, it will definitely be safe. As for the elixirs, there is an array that can maintain the medicinal effects for a long time. Everyone should know about this. Other than Wang Sheng, everyone nodded. It seemed like this was common knowledge, and Wang Sheng wouldn't doubt it. However, Wang Sheng was doubtful about whether the array could run for 500 years. The earth fire vein was directly embedded in an array, and it also served as the source of energy to maintain the operation of the array. It is more useful than spiritual energy. As if she had seen through Wang Sheng's thoughts, the female host directly explained the source of energy needed for the operation of the array. To be able to embed the earth fire into the array and use it, this was definitely an expert among array masters. Even Wang Sheng couldn't help but admire this kind of design. It could really run for a long time. As long as the earth fire was not extinguished, the array could run forever. Impressive. The entrance to the underground palace is under one of the palaces of that sect. The female host's words had basically explained why the ruins were intact and why there might be elixirs. What was left was to tell Wang Sheng the target of their search. Wang Sheng, do you have any way to find the underground palace? At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Wang Sheng. Everyone's eyes were filled with hope. Even Flying Fox was no exception. If they could find the underground palace, everyone present would be rewarded handsomely if they could return alive. At the same time, everyone present would have a share of at least 20% of the spoils of war found in the underground palace. Of course, the biggest prerequisite was that they could return alive. It was very obvious that some people were fated to not be able to return. This concerned their own interests, and everyone was very concerned about it. Those shopkeepers who were fated to not be able to return were completely out of consideration. They just had to find the underground palace as soon as possible. The underground palace and the fire vein. Wang Sheng looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. With an extremely resentful tone, he said to Flying Fox and the female owner, "Why didn't you say so earlier? Was there need to hide it from us and waste time?" His tone made everyone's hearts jump with joy. Since Wang Sheng said so, could it be that he already had a clue? Can you find it? The female host's eyes were filled with anticipation as she looked at Wang Sheng with a burning gaze. What a waste of time! Under everyone's gaze, Wang Sheng shook his head helplessly. "I've gone in the wrong direction. I'll turn back and walk in the other direction." "Sigh, really? Why didn't you say so earlier?" Chapter 393. To find an underground volcano, one had to find volcanic rocks. Wang Sheng had seen porous volcanic rocks on his way here, but he didn't head in this direction. From this perspective, it was indeed a waste of time to head in this direction. The two directions were dozens of miles apart. In a land of 1,000 devastations, this was at least a 2-day journey. By the time they returned to the Water Vein Palace, the sky was already dark. If it wasn't for Wang Sheng leading the way, it was estimated that not even half of the 30 or so people could make it back. Half of the 10 or so shopkeepers were already lying on the ground. On the way back, another 3 were injured, adding up to a total of 4 injured and 5 poisoned. The injured ones were fine, but among the 5 poisoned ones, 4 still had bruises on their faces. Their faces were swollen and they were foaming at the mouth. From the looks of it, they would at most last 1 or 2 days. Although they had been forced to drink antidotes, it didn't seem to have much effect. The group of fat shopkeepers were lying on the ground, half dead, and looked miserable at first glance. Flying Fox and the others saw this scene when they returned, but he didn't say anything. He only glanced at the guards who had stayed behind. One of the guards nodded slightly at him, and Flying Fox relaxed and began to eat and rest. Since they were already in such a state, the group of shopkeepers could be considered to have died here. Even if the female owner was by his side and saw this, she couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't blame Flying Fox and the others. In all honesty, Flying Fox and the others didn't even touch these shopkeepers. It wasn't time to make a move yet, was it? Looking at this, they didn't even need to do anything, and these guys would be able to account for themselves. The direction of the Earth Fire Vein is at least 2 days away from here. It's up to you whether you want to leave a group of people here to guard or bring them all along. When we find the fire vein, you guys can take care of the formation yourselves. I'm not good at it. Wang Sheng said a few words to the female owner, Flying Fox, before he went to sleep. Flying Fox and the female owner didn't say a word to each other and went to rest. When they set off the next morning, Wang Sheng saw their arrangements. All the shopkeepers stayed behind, with the exception of an expert guard and 2 ordinary guards. The rest followed Flying Fox to search for the underground fire vein. When they left, Wang Sheng and the female owner were at the front, while Flying Fox stayed behind. He nodded heavily at the expert guard who stayed behind and did not say anything else. The expert guard who stayed behind silently sat at the entrance of the Water Vein Palace with a blade of wild grass in his mouth. He was humming a tune of unknown origin in a very relaxed and contented manner. This time, Wang Sheng did not take any detours and went straight to the area where the volcanic rocks were distributed. They walked for more than 40 miles in 1 day and rested for a night. They only arrived at the area at noon the next day. Under the guidance of Wang Sheng's rich experience, it only took them half the afternoon to find a group of palaces before the sky turned dark. From the utensils found in some of the collapsed houses, the people who lived here must have refined pills. At night, they set up camp on the spot. There were a few people who didn't give up and wanted to search during the night. In the end, one of them was directly stung by something and died a violent death. After that, no one dared to move recklessly. Before they saw the entrance to the underground palace, 4 or 5 of Flying Fox's guards had already died. This loss made him very sad and extremely helpless at the same time. This was the land of thousand despair. Even Wang Sheng couldn't guarantee everyone's safety. The only consolation was that they had already found the part of the palace above ground. Now, they only needed to find the entrance to the underground palace. And this was obviously close at hand. The group left the Water Vein Palace, but the shopkeepers all stayed behind. The ratio of those who were still in good condition to those who were injured and poisoned was almost 1-to-1. Each person was responsible for looking after one of them, and the moaning in the small Water Vein Palace never stopped. Just like that, the 3 guards took care of the group of shopkeepers. They didn't care whether they ate or drank, and only cared about resting and being on guard. After a whole day and night, early the next morning, the expert guard in charge finally got up and tidied up his equipment. He looked at the dozens of exhausted shopkeepers huddled together, stood up, and said, "All of you stop moaning. Eat a good meal and get ready to go." Hearing the guard's words, a few of the shopkeepers turned pale on the spot, and their bodies trembled. Although they had already expected such a day, they still didn't expect that it would actually happen right in front of their eyes. At this moment, the few trembling shopkeepers were actually a little envious of their companions who were poisoned and unconscious. At least they would be on their way in a coma, and wouldn't feel any pain, and wouldn't have any fear. Unlike them, who were so clear-headed, they had to face such a terrifying reality. The 2 ordinary guards naturally followed the expert guard's lead. Hearing his words, the 2 of them understood everything. They didn't say anything, and silently stood behind the expert guard. The expert guard really enjoyed the pleasure of controlling people's life and death. The feeling of being high above made people unable to stop. No wonder the masters were fighting for power and profit. It turned out that it was really so addictive. Even controlling the lives of a few people was like this. How carefree would it be to control the life and death of hundreds of thousands of people? He admired those shopkeepers who looked calm and collected, looking at them calmly preparing food and water and slowly eating. The expert guard felt like he was playing a game of cat and mouse. He wanted to see how long these people could remain calm. When he decided to take action, would they still be able to maintain this calmness instead of kowtowing and begging for mercy? Those who were pale at the beginning, at this moment, their hands were trembling so much that they couldn't even put food into their mouths. Thinking about it, they were originally big shopkeepers in charge of an area, but now they were going to end up like this. What a pity. Who asked you to follow the wrong person? He very patiently gave the shopkeepers half an hour's time. Seeing that the shopkeepers' expressions didn't change, and that even the creases on their clothes were smoothed out as much as possible, the expert guard finally grabbed the hilt of his sword. "I have a few pills here that can let you die a quick death. If you're not willing, I can do it myself. I guarantee that it will be very fast, and you won't feel much pain. Which do you choose?" "How fast?" One of the shopkeepers, who seemed to be forcing himself to be calm under the expert guard, suddenly let out a long breath and asked. When the expert guard heard the sound of his breath, it was as if all his calmness had been broken, exposing his guilty conscience. The expert guard laughed. "In the end, you're just forcing yourself to be calm. You're just a silver spearhead." Holding the hilt of his sword, just as he was about to show that guy how fast his sword was, a strange sound came from behind him. Chi! The tip of the sword pierced through the expert guard's neck and came out from his mouth. Chapter 394. Bang! Another person was sent flying. It was one of the 2 ordinary guards. While he was still in the air, he was already vomiting blood, and there was an obvious dent in his chest. The other ordinary guard, who had just stood behind the expert guard, finally revealed his true appearance. The expert guard's protective clothing was useless against an attack from the back. Only an attack on the neck could be fatal. The angle he chose was good, and his sword was fast enough. He pierced through the neck and killed the expert guard instantly. "All right, your sword is very fast. The shopkeeper who had just asked the question suddenly revealed a smile and smiled at the guard. It wasn't just this one shopkeeper. At least 5 other shopkeepers were also laughing uproariously. One of them was trembling and couldn't hold on to his food. Another was unconscious with a face full of bruises and was foaming at the mouth. The last one was groaning incessantly because he had been injured earlier. At this moment, they finally didn't have to pretend anymore. All of them laughed heartily. The other managers who hadn't laughed wantonly all had smiles on their faces. Some of them even started to tease each other. "You damn fatty, you're foaming at the mouth so unnaturally. Someone almost saw through you. I was so scared." You can't even pretend to be scared, and you're still chattering. Is it that bad? After a short while, apart from 2 of the injured guards who were slightly injured, everyone else stood up in high spirits. Just as everyone was teasing each other, the guard who had attacked had already stabbed the neck of the guard he had sent flying, ensuring that he wouldn't have any more chances. Sometimes, when people were in danger, they had to be especially cautious. Of course, the items on the 2 corpses were taken away. Everyone had brought along some supplies. These were all essential items to survive in the lands of despair. Let's go. Let's go in the direction that Lone Wolf mentioned. There's a safer place there. An older manager stood up and gave orders. The head shopkeeper was the oldest and had the highest status. With just one sentence, no one had any objections. They quickly packed up their things, then took their 2 injured companions and carefully walked in the direction that Wang Sheng had already hinted at. That direction was actually the direction that Flying Fox and his team had previously searched. During the search the day before, Wang Sheng had already found a safe hiding place and made a secret note of it. Everyone was very careful as they walked. Even if it was a small plant, they would try their best not to step on it. On the other hand, the guard who made the first move began to carefully clean up the mess. He made some exquisite disguises so that when people looked over, they would not be able to tell that someone had just passed by. What they saw was only the traces left by Flying Fox and the others yesterday. How could it be easy for the female owner to manage Bao Qing Yutang for so many years? Putting aside the people around him, he had secretly cultivated a large number of loyal subordinates. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to bring any news to Wang Sheng. Otherwise, where'd she get the confidence to rely on the things in the ruins to make a comeback? That night, after everyone was knocked out by Wang Sheng, the female owner told Wang Sheng everything. As long as they could separate the shopkeepers from the team, they would be able to find a way to escape. All they needed was to give them a safe place to stay. The previous arrangements had been made to deal with all of this, including deliberately wasting time, purposely turning back, etc. It was all to wait for an opportunity to point out the direction of the safe hiding place to everyone. Wang Sheng knew the importance of these loyal and devoted shopkeepers to the female owner. They were even more important than the guards who were highly skilled in martial arts. Therefore, no matter what, he had to give them a safe shelter. After walking for less than 5 miles, the head shopkeeper saw the secret mark that Wang Sheng had agreed on with them. He then carefully turned back in that direction. It was still the last guard who had carefully cleaned up the traces. If someone had followed them, they would have followed the previous team's direction without hesitation. They wouldn't have noticed that there was a fork in the dense forest here. At that time, no one noticed that Wang Sheng had made a slight turn on the road. Perhaps Black Snake had noticed it, but it didn't prevent him from making arrangements to assassinate Wang Sheng. Therefore, even if he had seen it, he wouldn't have said anything. Wang Sheng disappeared for a very short time. When everyone reacted, Wang Sheng had already appeared. Naturally, no one would feel that there was anything wrong. When the head shopkeeper turned a corner along the rugged path, he saw the secret mark that Wang Sheng had left on the tree. The arrow was pointing upwards. Looking up, the head shopkeeper suddenly understood. It was a big tree, and its branches were tall and wide enough. As long as they went up with a little arrangement, it would be a hidden and safe shelter. The group of people immediately moved and climbed up agilely. After going up, the head shopkeeper realized that Wang Sheng had left 10 storage rings on the branches of the big tree. They were all filled with food and water. After everyone had settled down, the head shopkeeper finally heaved a sigh of relief. Only now did he have the time to sigh. Wang Sheng was an expert who could come and go as he pleased in the land of thousand despair. The new owner of Baoqing Yutang must have water in his head. Just because the owner didn't take the initiative to curry favor with him, he had to find ways to suppress and get rid of him. Compared to the female owner, the new owner and the big owner of Baoqing Yutang were simply not worth mentioning. This was also the reason why the head shopkeeper was so loyal to the female owner. After everyone had rested, the manager found the only guard and instructed, Lone Wolf said that there won't be any life-threatening poisonous insect for at least 5 days in the places we pass through. Go back to the water vein and send a signal for our people to come and rendezvous. The guard nodded and was about to do as he was told, but the head shopkeeper suddenly pulled him back. Remember, if the situation doesn't look right, leave immediately. If you can't escape, take the pill that disguises you as being poisoned. He tightened his grip on the guard's arm and warned, in short, protect your life first. Understand? I understand. The guard nodded and carefully slid down the tree. He followed the original path towards the water vein palace. As he watched the guard disappear into the dense forest, the head manager also sighed heavily. Whether the young miss could make a comeback this time depended on this. However, as long as the young miss and Wang Sheng stood on the side, there would be an absolute chance. He knew that Wang Sheng had thousands of ideas for businesses like white sugar and refined salt. Even without the items from the ruins, he could still make another Baoqing Yutang in a short time. Unfortunately, although the young miss looked delicate and charming, she was a person who refused to admit defeat. She seemed to want to prove something to Wang Sheng. Silly child. Chapter 395. Although the Stygian snake had been paying attention to Wang Sheng's movements, he didn't notice Wang Sheng's abnormality. Wang Sheng would often climb up a tree and observe from above. Who would have thought that Wang Sheng was looking for a hiding place for a group of shopkeepers when he climbed up a certain tree? However, the Stygian snake still noticed something unusual. For example, the number of bugs they passed through had decreased significantly. Even if there were occasional casualties, it was because the people were stupid. If they were really careful according to Wang Sheng's request, those unfortunate incidents wouldn't have happened. This was completely different from when the Stygian snake was training in the dense forest of the Thousand Extremities outside of Carefree City. Even outside of Carefree City, the number of bugs was frightening. There were often dozens of small bugs crawling on the bamboo Hatsgau's net. But in the depths of the Thousand Extremities, there were actually fewer bugs. How is this possible? The only explanation was that Wang Sheng had one. Wang Sheng probably had some unusual method to drive away the bugs. This was the reason why Wang Sheng could run amok in the Thousand Extremities. For a moment, the Stygian snake was tempted. If he could get his hands on Wang Sheng's method before he killed Wang Sheng, wouldn't he be able to enjoy the same treatment as Wang Sheng? Ever since they had entered the grounds of Thousand Despair, there had been more than 10 perfect opportunities for the Black Serpent to strike a fatal blow at Wang Sheng. Unfortunately, Baoqing Yutang's boss had gone crazy. He even requested that Wang Sheng not be touched before the matter was settled. What a waste of opportunity. Letting the opportunity to see Wang Sheng's neck spurt blood slip past his eyes made the Stygian snake's hands itch. If it wasn't for his amazing self-control, he might have made a move. This feeling of endurance was really unbearable for him. However, the discovery of the underground palace's entrance had completely attracted the Stygian serpent's attention, causing him to shift his gaze away from Wang Sheng and stare firmly at the entrance of the underground palace. This was a complete historical sight in the land of thousand devastations. If one were to walk through this entrance, it would be an unimaginable amount of wealth and opportunities. Even Flying Fox, who was used to seeing the world, could not help but hold his breath when he saw the exquisitely carved stone door. He was afraid that if he breathed too heavily, he would make the stone door disappear. Everyone was stunned for a moment before they cleared away the broken walls, rubble, and shrubs in a flurry. Only then did the stone door on the ground reveal its true appearance. The stone door was huge. It was at least 5 meters long and 4 meters wide. It lay flat on the ground instead of standing upright like a normal stone door. Everyone understood this scene. After all, this was a sealed, underground palace. It was normal for it to be fixed to the ground. The collapsed palace did not destroy the stone door, but it was enough to completely cover it up. The group of people searched the huge palace complex for 2 days before they finally found the entrance to the underground palace. They had no choice. All the palace ruins had to be excavated to see what was underneath. They could not be any faster, even if they wanted to. Once they opened the stone door, there would be a huge amount of wealth and opportunities that even Bao Qing Yutang would covet. At the thought of this, everyone by the stone door could not help but breathe heavily. If you want to die quickly, then do it quickly. A voice that spoiled the mood rang in everyone's ears. Everyone was alarmed when they realized that they had lost their composure. Only then did they realize that the person who had shouted was Wang Sheng. Array Master, Array Master. Flying Fox, don't tell me you didn't bring an Array Master with you. Wang Sheng's harsh voice was not annoying at all. Instead, everyone thought to themselves that it was a close shave. Just a stone door had made everyone forget the purpose of their trip. If someone had touched the stone door, who knew what would have happened? While everyone was secretly wiping away their cold sweat, Flying Fox also hurriedly called the accompanying Array Master to check. The female owner had said that the source of the power of this array was the earth fire. It would not fail even after a few hundred years. When the 4 Array Masters spread out at the dead ends of the stone door, they used 4 connected array stones to form a formation to completely break the protective array on the stone door. All the stones, branches, and things that were not cleaned in time within a few feet of the stone door were all turned into powder. If the 4 Array Masters did not have the protection of the array, the result would not be any better than the powder on the ground. This was not a lie. It was an impatient and careless fellow who used his own life to demonstrate to everyone. He did not actually make any big mistakes. The only mistake was that he did not retreat more than 10 feet away from the door. Thus, this unlucky fellow put on a lively special effect in front of everyone. The moment the array stone was activated, his entire body suddenly turned into a cloud of illusory, blood-colored smoke. It dissipated with the wind, leaving nothing behind. The entire process seemed so simple. There was not the slightest bit of illusion or exaggeration. There was also no disgusting blood. However, it was this scene that seemed as if nothing had happened. Almost everyone broke out in a cold sweat and involuntarily took a step back. There were only 2 people who did not move. One was Wang Sheng, and the other was the female owner beside him. At this time, there was no longer anyone restricting his contact with the female owner. No matter how much contact 2 people had, they were just 2 people, weren't they? Wang Sheng did not move, because he was already far enough away. Moreover, he was confident that the array would not harm him. After all, he was standing outside the palace ruins that covered the entrance to the underground palace. No matter how powerful the array was, it would not damage the palace outside. The area outside must be fine. As for the female owner, she did not move because she was standing beside Wang Sheng. She trusted Wang Sheng very much. She believed that as long as she stood beside him, she would not be in danger. That sense of security was something she had never enjoyed in her family or with Bao Qing Yutang. Even if the guards and experts around her were all enemies, as long as she stood beside Wang Sheng, she would only feel safe. The 4 Array Masters had been controlling the array for a while, but no one moved. These people were all frightened by the tragic scene of their companion turning into flying ashes. No one dared to step forward. If you continue to stand like this, then there's no need to go down and look. Just turn back. Finally, Wang Sheng could not stand it anymore. He sighed and said, "I thought the purpose of your trip was to explore the ruins. I didn't expect you to just look at the entrance. What a waste of my time." Chapter 396. His words made Fei Hu and the rest blush. They were a little angry from embarrassment, but they had no reason to flare up because Wang Sheng was telling the truth. They were indeed delayed due to their hesitation. "Open the door." Fei Hu waved his hand and ordered. 4 6-degree realm experts quickly stood in between the 2 doors and each of them used their strength to pull the huge stone door knocker on the stone door. They shouted in unison and used all their strength to pull it upwards with all their might. Under everyone's expectant gazes, everyone clenched their fists, hoping to see the true face of the underground palace. While everyone was secretly encouraging the four experts and waiting for them to open the stone door, nothing happened. The four sixth-degree realm experts in charge of pulling the stone door were already red in the face, but the two huge stone doors did not budge at all. The four of them, two people each in charge of one door, actually did not manage to pull it up. This situation was really too awkward, to the extent that everyone's expectations were suddenly dashed. It was as if someone had suddenly stepped on empty ground and staggered uncomfortably. A few impatient fellows, if not for the fact that their cultivation was not as high as the four of them, and that even if they went up, they might not be able to pull it up, would have anxiously rushed up to help them pull it up. Feihu's face flushed a rare shade of red. His subordinates making a fool of themselves made him, the leader, lose face. But there was no other way. He could only wave his hand and ask a few more people to go up to help. This time, everyone had finally learned their lesson. After doubling the number of people, they finally pulled the stone door open a little. They only saw the thickness of the two sides of the stone door after it was flipped open. The people who used their strength tacitly put down the two stone doors. Then, all 8 of them gathered on one door, pulled the door knocker on both sides, and used their strength again. With the 8 of them working together, the stone door was finally pulled up. At this time, the crowd outside finally saw the full appearance of the stone door. It was 5 meters long and 2 meters wide. Just the thickness alone was half a meter. The total weight added up was probably at least tens of thousands of kilograms. No wonder the two sixth-degree realm experts could not even pull one door open. This weight, to put it bluntly, if they did not bring enough experts with them, they could only return in defeat. After opening one door, the crowd spent a lot of effort to open another door. Faced with the opening of the underground palace, everyone wished that they could immediately jump in and be the first to search for the treasures. However, no matter how anxious they were, they could only stay outside obediently and wait for a breather. The underground palace had been sealed for 500 years. Whoever dared to jump in the moment the door was opened must be tired of living. If they were to wait for natural ventilation, it would take at least 10 days to half a month for such a small entrance and the huge underground palace to open. Fortunately, Bao Qin Yutang's men had thought of all these before they came and had made preparations. The few array formation masters each changed a array stone, which was still distributed around the stone door, and activated the array stones. A strong hurricane was generated between the 4 of them, and then it poured into the palace below crazily. Wang Sheng nodded slightly. That was more like it. Wang Sheng did not expect that the formation in this world would have such an effect. With such a large amount of wind, it was even more powerful than some of the superpowered blowers that Wang Sheng had seen on Earth. Based on this speed, it would take at most a few hours for the air below to be changed. As for this ancient sect that could think of using the fire vein to refine pills, Wang Sheng felt that it was a miracle. He was shocked by such a bold idea. That was an active volcano. If it was accidentally spewed out, not to mention the underground palace, even the parts above ground would be soaked in magma. With a volcanic crater filled with sulfur dioxide, it would be strange if the water source for refining pills was not placed far away. If they really used local materials, it would be equivalent to drinking sulfuric acid. If they dared to use local materials to refine pills, they would definitely be refining a furnace full of poison, and refining a furnace full of poison without any problems. The entrance of the underground palace had already been opened, and those with ulterior motives were already making preparations in secret. Many of them understood that when they entered and found what they wanted, it would be time for them to reveal their cards. Looking at the 4 formation masters controlling the blowing wind formation to continuously change the air in the underground palace, everyone waited in silence. Wang Sheng and the female owner seemed to be the most carefree. They sat a place slightly further away, took out wine and food, and enjoyed it while waiting. The people around them frowned. To be on the safe side, everyone stayed here for the whole night. The formation did not stop the whole night, and it kept changing the air. Those who were closer to the entrance could smell the stimulating smell that came from the beginning. It was not until the next morning that the smell became fainter and fainter. In the morning, there was basically no smell at all. Flying Fox got someone to catch a small beast, tie a rope on it, and throw it down. After a while, he pulled it up and made sure that the small beast was fine. Then he waved his hand and got someone to walk down the dark staircase at the entrance. The dark entrance was like a ferocious beast in the darkness. It opened its mouth and swallowed everyone. Wang Sheng and the female owner walked in the middle, and there were people in front and behind them. What was surprising was that Flying Fox was not at the front, but at the back. When everyone in the team entered the underground palace, Flying Fox and the few people at the back tried their best to close the two huge and heavy stone doors one by one. When the heavy sound of the stone doors closing was heard, there was no longer any light in the underground palace. There was only darkness left. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they heard the heavy sound of the doors closing. Everyone understood that with the weight of the two stone doors, if the people inside did not work together, they would not be able to open them. Whoever wanted to play tricks inside would end up harming others and themselves. They would not be able to get out and would suffocate to death in the underground palace. In other words, at this stage, everyone had to unconditionally listen to the words of the most powerful cultivator who was the most useful. Otherwise, he did not even need to do anything. He just needed to unite everyone and throw the disobedient people here, and that would be enough to intimidate everyone. The torches that had been prepared earlier were lit up one by one. By Bo's flames illuminated everyone's faces. Everyone could only follow the stone steps under their feet and move forward. Soon, they disappeared into the dark underground palace. The heavy stone doors had already been closed for 4 to 5 hours. Suddenly, 3 figures flashed out of the dense forest around them. Looking at the cleared entrance of the underground palace and the tightly shut stone door, the 3 of them revealed smiles in their eyes. It was rare to see turtles who locked themselves in a jar. Chapter 397. The 3 people who appeared were the 3 super experts sent by Song Hongda. One of them was a legendary 9th degree realm expert, and the only commander among the 3 of them. Standing by the stone door, the 9th degree realm expert listened quietly for a full 10 minutes before nodding and smiling. There's no one down there. What about the group of people in front of us? One of the 8th degree realm experts asked the commander, should we go over there and eliminate them? The commander pondered for a moment and shook his head. Forget it. The elixir is more important. Don't complicate the issue. After saying this, he saw that one of the 8th degree realm experts seemed to be puzzled and sighed. The elixir is related to the Duke's life. Of course, it's the first priority. To kill a few unimportant people, if the elixir is snatched or destroyed by these people, the gains will not make up for the losses. In addition, if there's a chance to kill Lone Wolf, try not to do it. Why? The 8th degree realm expert was even more puzzled and asked hurriedly. Even if the other didn't ask, his eyes widened in shock, waiting for the commander to explain. Wang Sheng was someone that Song Wugong wanted to kill. The 2 8th degree realm experts have been by Song Wugong's side for so many years. Of course they knew this. But they were also clear that the commander was even more aware of this. But why did the commander give such instructions? Could it be that the commander wanted to betray the Duke? Impossible. The commander had just said that the first priority was to help the Duke get the God-recovering elixir. Because of the princess. The commander sighed and slowly explained the reason. The commander's cultivation was a level higher than his 2 companions, but he had only touched the edge. If he wanted to continue to improve, it would be impossible unless he encountered some earth-shattering fortuitous encounter. The commander himself knew very well that if he wanted to break through, the only chance was to understand the human heart. And because of this, he spent time thinking about the Duke, pondering about the princess, pondering about the reason why there was a rift between the Duke and the princess. Obviously, this rift was Wang Sheng. Now Song Wugong hated Wang Sheng to the core and was eager to kill Wang Sheng. It would be great if he could find a divine pill, and it was useful. If the divine elixir could not be found, Or if the divine elixir was useless, Duke Song would not be able to hold on for long. At that time, would the princess still quarrel with Marquis Song? If the princess and Marquis Song reconciled, but they killed Wang Sheng, how could they face the princess in the future? If something happened to Duke Song, who would Duke Song, who had no children, hand the Song nation to? The entire families of the previous elders who harbored ill intentions had already been killed. Apart from the princess, how could they hand it over to the important ministers? If the princess succeeded the throne of Marquis Song and they killed Wang Sheng, what should they do? In fact, the commander rarely told others about these thoughts. It was only because these two companions of his were good brothers that he would pay attention to reminding them. After the two companions heard the commander's words, they both fell silent. In the end, they had no choice but to admit that the older the ginger, the spicier it was. The commander was indeed more far-sighted than them. To be able to snatch the divine elixir was already a great merit. If they killed Wang Sheng along the way, it would be like drawing feet on a snake. After thinking it through, the two eighth-stage realm companions expressed their heartfelt gratitude towards the commander. If it wasn't for his reminder, they would have committed a huge mistake. Following that, one of the eighth-stage realm experts used an array stone in his hand to check. There were no remnants of arrays on the stone door. The back of the stone door also did not have such an arrangement. The two eighth-stage realm experts walked to one end of the stone door, and both of them worked together to grab a door knocker. The commander himself grabbed the door knocker on this side alone. The three of them shouted and exerted their strength. A stone door which required 8 six-stage realm experts to slowly open was slowly opened under the combined efforts of the commander and his two companions. Standing at the door, the commander used his super strong cultivation to sense the inside once again. After ascertaining that there was no one, he led the way and jumped into the stone door. The three of them worked together again and closed the stone door from the inside. The people inside had already been in there for a few hours. It was impossible for them to know that the stone door which they had meticulously closed had been opened again and entered the underground palace. The stone steps were very long and very winding. Every turn was not a pure right angle, but a variety of angles. Anyway, as long as they followed the stone steps for a distance, they would basically lose their way. This kind of design probably made it impossible for them to determine the real location of the earth-fire vein underground, in case they went up to the top and pinpointed the exact location. Just this stretch of stone steps was about 10 miles long. Luckily, there was only one path, and they didn't have to worry about getting lost. Otherwise, they would go crazy. Another piece of good news was that this underground palace had always been properly sealed. Because it was filled with the irritating gas produced by the earth-fire vein, there were no demon beasts, let alone insects that could survive inside. The dangers which made everyone on tenterhooks in the grounds of Thousand Despair didn't exist here. What everyone had to face was the omnipresent darkness and the unknown divine elixir. Apart from that, there was also the mysterious formation which used the earth-fire vein as its energy source that had been in operation for who knew how many years. After stumbling along step by step with their torches raised for a few hours, the stone steps disappeared and the space in front of them suddenly opened up. In front of everyone was a huge hole which made them dumbfounded. Strictly speaking, it was a huge underground space. There were several terrifyingly huge stone pillars, all of which were formed naturally. They firmly supported the top and bottom of the underground cave, forming a huge space that could accommodate tens of thousands of people. In this huge space, there were hundreds of stone rooms which were obviously carved according to the local conditions. Or maybe it was not appropriate to call them stone rooms. They could only be called caves. The reason why everyone could see these things clearly was not because of the torches held by the dozens of people. To be honest, the light from the dozens of small torches couldn't even light up the surrounding 10 feet. They could see this because there was an area in the underground space which was constantly emitting a dim red light. At the same time, there was a burst of heat which made people sweat. The earth-fire vein. The female owner was the first to shout. Everyone looked at the red light on the other side of the space from afar. Almost everyone had an expression of admiration for the magic of creation. The only one who didn't change was Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng had long guessed that the earth fire vein was volcanic lava. The strong, irritating smell of sulfur dioxide when he breathed made him even more certain. Wasn't it just some volcanic lava? Wang Sheng had seen the eruption of an active volcano. What was there to fuss about seeing a lake of lava? Chapter 398. Just by looking at it, some people's breathing became heavy. Wang Sheng glanced at that person and recognized him. It was said that he was an accompanying alchemist who was used to identify elixirs and elixir recipes. When an alchemist saw something like the earth fire vein, wouldn't it be like a master craftsman seeing a divine craftsman set? It was normal to be excited. However, other than the alchemist, the others were excited about something else. For example, those grottos. The things that everyone was looking for were definitely in those grottos. There was no doubt about it. Check every grottos carefully. Flying Fox's voice rang out at the right time, giving everyone guidance and prompting them to start taking action. How could the group of people hold back any longer? More than 10 of them instantly dispersed and ran towards the grottos that they had their eyes on. However, Fei Hu and a few of his most powerful bodyguards remained where they were. None of them moved a muscle. These people stood in a very particular position, vaguely surrounding Wang Sheng and the female owner in a few directions. They were not in a hurry to search for things, and their gazes were always on the two of them. Let's go and take a look at that earth fire vein. Wang Sheng looked at this situation and smiled. He did not argue and walked towards the red magma lake. The female owner also smiled and walked forward. When the bodyguards saw this, they all looked at Flying Fox. Flying Fox frowned, but did not say anything in the end. He only nodded slightly. The 4 bodyguards still followed beside Wang Sheng and the female owner at a distance. Anyway, as long as they did not go near those grottos and did not go in to snatch things, these people would not attack them for the time being. Wang Sheng was indeed very curious, and it could be considered as observing the terrain. The entrance of the stone steps was about 2 miles away from the magma lake. It would take more than 10 minutes to walk and observe as they walked. In this space, there was not only magma in the magma lake, but there were also holes of various sizes on the ground, with magma bubbling. The surrounding air also had the familiar pungent smell of sulfur dioxide. The temperature of the air was also very high. According to Wang Sheng's estimation, it was at least 40 degrees, close to 50 degrees. The closer they got to the lava, the higher the temperature. If Wang Sheng had not asked the Grandmaster expert to design a cooling and ventilating array in the underwear when he was designing the protective clothing, he would definitely have died from the heat while wearing several layers of protective clothing in such an environment. The lava lake was not small, and its width completely occupied the entire underground space. Only when he got closer did he realize that this corner of the underground space was completely blocked by an area of about 100 meters in radius. On the other side of the magma lake, there was another region. It was very small, about the same size as this one, but it was completely empty. Wang Sheng's curiosity was piqued, and he casually pulled out a useless wooden stick from his storage ring before tossing it into the lava lake. The moment the wooden stick fell into the magma lake, it caught fire. After a few moments, it slowly turned into ashes. Looking around, Wang Sheng ran out to find a few fist-sized rocks and threw them into the lava lake. After a while, the few rocks turned red and softened. Soon, they were assimilated into lava and flowed together. When the wooden stick was burning, the crowd didn't think much of it, but when the stone melted, everyone who saw this scene sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the rocks could be melted. How terrifying was the fire vein of the earth fire? Wang Sheng looked at this, but did not feel anything strange. Lava was originally molten rocks, and the temperature was enough to liquefy rocks. The rocks that he picked up were all cooled volcanic rocks. Wasn't it normal to throw them back into the lava to be melted? Wang Sheng was not satisfied with just holding the rocks, so he took out an ordinary dagger from his storage ring and threw it in. Whether it was the female owner or the surrounding guards, no one stopped him. They were probably curious and wanted to see if even the dagger could be melted. The temperature of the lava was about 700 to 1,200 degrees, but the melting point of iron was more than 1,500 degrees, so Wang Sheng knew that the dagger would definitely not melt. The truth was indeed so. The dagger quickly turned red, and the handle was not made of iron, so it quickly burned. After a while, the dagger disappeared. The guards were far away, and they could not see very clearly in this dim light, so they only saw the dagger burn and then disappear. They immediately instinctively thought that the dagger was also melted, which made them even more frightened. However, Wang Sheng saw clearly that the dagger was not melted, but because the density of the iron was too high, it slowly sank into the lava. After the dagger was burned red, there was not much difference between the two, so it was normal for those people to make a mistake. No one knew that Wang Sheng was calculating the speed of the dagger sinking. While they were observing the lava lake, the guards who rushed into the grotto on the other side had already found something. If they did not enter, they would not know. After entering the grotto, they realized that each grotto was actually an independent alchemy room. There was a circular hole in the center of the grotto, and lava kept bubbling in the hole. Above the hole was an alchemy furnace. This was indeed alchemy using the earth fire vein. There were furniture like futons and cabinets around, as well as things like stone beds, bottles of medicinal herbs, and even some things like scrolls on the table. The first guard who saw these cheered and immediately went forward to collect the scroll on the table. In the process, he had already discovered that it was an elixir formula. He did not see the specific elixir formula, but it definitely recorded the medicinal herbs and the steps of alchemy. Putting away the scroll, Zhang Xian immediately headed straight for the bottles and jars of medicinal herbs. If there were elixirs left behind, they would definitely be in these tools. However, not every alchemy room had something worth collecting. It depended on each person's luck. Only by entering the room with good things would one have a harvest. If one entered the alchemy room with nothing, he could only look at the empty grotto and curse his bad luck. A bunch of fools. Wang Sheng had already observed the lava lake. When he turned his head, he saw that the group of people were like ants searching one grotto after another. He immediately cursed without thinking. Why? The female owner also saw this scene and asked in confusion. These people were still her subordinates in name. Even if she did not control Bao Qing Yutang now, they were still considered Bao Qing Yutang's men. Of course, she had to find out why they were fools. Didn't you say that there is an array that is always in operation to protect the elixirs from losing their effectiveness? Wang Sheng looked at the group of people and was not afraid that the surrounding guards would hear him. He sneered and commented, "A few array masters are searching randomly. Can't they find the array first before searching for the elixirs they want?" Chapter 399. The onlookers had a clearer view of the situation than the onlookers. The guards who were monitoring Wang Sheng and the female owner immediately understood what was going on when they heard this. It was true. Although Wang Sheng's tone was not good, what he said made sense. One of the guards immediately exchanged glances with the other three, then quickly ran towards Flying Fox. He wanted to inform Flying Fox to change the method of searching and not waste any more time. The most important thing on this trip was to find the elixir and the elixir formula. Those unimportant things could be completely ignored. Flying Fox was still in the center with a few of his trusted experts, supervising everyone. Every item that they found had to be brought to them to be categorized and stored. Then, the elixir master would appraise the items. Those that were worth taking away would be taken away, and those that were not would be left behind. When the guards ran over and told Flying Fox about Wang Sheng's words, Flying Fox instantly slapped his own head. He had really been so guarded against Wang Sheng and the female owner that he had become stupid. He could not even think of such a simple, direct, and violent method. This was really not right. "Array Master," Flying Fox immediately shouted. The terrain here was really dangerous. The earlier they found the items, the earlier they could leave safely. The Array Master quickly searched for the array according to Wang Sheng's method. Speaking of which, everyone was actually blinded by the wealth at their fingertips. They did not think of this point. When the array master became serious, his efficiency immediately increased several times. It did not take long for the array master to find the most obvious location of the array. It was at the side of the thickest stone pillar that everyone could see. And there was an obviously sealed grotto. Flying Fox stood at the side of the stone pillar and looked at the sealed grotto. In his heart, he was already sure that the elixir they were looking for was inside. There was no need to ask how Flying Fox was so sure. In the words of the array master, the surrounding array was simply terrifyingly strong. There was a sharp counterattack amidst the defense. Not to mention ordinary people, even an ordinary array master would have to look at it and sigh. Several guards wanted to break open the wooden door of the cave, but before they could get within 5 feet of the cave, they were trapped by an array formation. A circle of lava suddenly appeared on the previously empty ground. The guards didn't even have a chance to escape. They screamed and burned as they slowly fell into the lava. Then, they turned into piles of ashes and disappeared without a trace. Everyone was shocked by this scene. If they still couldn't confirm that the item was in there, then wouldn't the rest of them be lumps of wood? The 4 array masters immediately began to study the array. It only took a moment for him to come to a conclusion. Overall, there was good news and bad news. The good news was that this array formation was from 500 years ago, so it wasn't particularly advanced. The 4 array masters had a way to break it. The bad news was that the source of energy for this formation was the earth fire vein. In other words, as long as the earth fire vein was not exhausted, this formation would always be able to operate. It was quite difficult to decipher it. There was a way to decipher it. One was to cut off the energy source of the formation, but that was obviously impossible. Then, there was only one way left, and that was to use a stronger force to break or tear the formation apart. The problem was that even if the 4 array masters worked together, they wouldn't be able to break the protection of the formation in an instant. There wasn't enough spiritual energy. If they wanted to decipher it, they would need the help of all the experts present. Only then would it be possible. Flying Fox stood a few feet away from the cave door and pondered for a while. Finally, he made a decision. Kill them. Flying Fox ordered the guard who had just run back to report. Now that they had confirmed the location of the elixir, and breaking the array required everyone's strength, it would be a waste to split up the guards to watch over Wang Sheng and the female owner. In order to prevent Wang Sheng and the female owner from causing trouble while they were working, it would be more reassuring to kill them. Anyway, the main goal of this trip was to get the elixir, and the other goal was to kill the female owner and Wang Sheng. Since it had come to this, there was no need to feign civility. Killing them would solve all problems. The guard was stunned, but he responded. He called a few experts and quickly ran towards Wang Sheng and the female owner. Wang Sheng and the rest had obviously seen the situation. The huge stone pillar wasn't far from them. It was less than a mile away. If they were to rush over, Wang Sheng wouldn't have the confidence to protect the female owner. Do you trust me? Wang Sheng suddenly asked the female host without any rhyme or reason. Of course. The female owner answered without hesitation. Then don't struggle no matter what I do, Wang Sheng reminded the female owner. Then, he reached out and carried the female owner horizontally. The 3 guards who were watching over Wang Sheng and the female owner saw the guards running over and seemed to understand something. Without saying a word, they took out their weapons and attacked Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng did not even try to block the attacks of the 3 experts. Instead, he carried the female owner and quickly turned around. Then, he dashed into the magma lake. Looking at Wang Sheng's suicidal action, the 3 guards were dumbfounded. What did this mean? Could it be that they knew their lives were in danger, so they wanted to die together? Because they were too surprised, the 3 of them forgot to kill the 2 of them. They had just brandished their weapons, and before they could rush forward, they were stunned. The experts who were rushing over from afar to help were similarly stunned. What kind of person would want to rush into the earth fire vein? Although a few of them didn't see the scene of the lava melting the wooden stick, the stone, and the dagger, they saw with their own eyes the scene of a few guards being burned to ashes by the earth fire vein. A few of the guards were burned to ashes by the earth fire. What would happen if Wang Sheng jumped into the earth fire vein with the female owner in his arms? Not only were the experts and guards stunned, but even Flying Fox, the array formation master, and the alchemist master in the distance were all stunned. Everyone looked at the figures of Wang Sheng and the female owner in disbelief as they rushed towards the huge earth fire vein. The scene of Wang Sheng carrying the female owner and sprinting was like a hero courting death. Wang Sheng was indeed sprinting at the moment, and he was rushing into the lava at his fastest speed. What no one noticed was that there were some water stains under Wang Sheng's feet. That was when he sprinted at full speed. Wang Sheng didn't forget to release some water from his storage ring and put it on the soles of his military boots. The scene of Wang Sheng and the female owner being burned to ashes and then being melted by the earth fire vein did not happen. Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched Wang Sheng, as if he had grown wings, run over the earth fire vein with the female owner in his arms. In the blink of an eye, they rushed to the small, open space on the other side of the fire vein. Chapter 400. Magma was a non-Newtonian fluid with a density of about 2.5 tons per cubic meter. Its viscosity was 100,000 times that of water, and its temperature was between 700 to 1,200 degrees. This density was many times higher than the density of the human body. This also meant that even if Wang Sheng jumped directly into the magma lake, he would not sink to the bottom. Instead, he would float and burn on the surface of the magma. The place where Wang Sheng chose to run was usually the red part of the magma lake. This was also the part with the lowest temperature in the magma lake, about 900 degrees. If it was the bright part, it would be more than 1,000 degrees. At the same time, the water at the bottom of Wang Sheng's boots would be vaporized the moment it came into contact with the magma. This would carry away a lot of heat and further reduce the temperature of the contact surface. This temperature was not enough to ignite the bottom of Wang Sheng's boots at the moment of contact. With every step, Wang Sheng would control the water in a storage ring to release it to the soles of his boots, keeping the soles of his boots wet and cold. Of course, the most important thing was that Wang Sheng's running speed was fast enough. The average time it spent in contact with the magma was less than 0.1 seconds. And to be on the safe side, Wang Sheng also soaked all the parts below his knees with water to ensure that the water vaporized and carried away the heat, so that his pants and body would not be ignited. The meaning of non-Newtonian fluid was simply that if Wang Sheng stood on the magma, he would slowly sink. But if he ran at a high speed, the magma would at most have some elasticity on the ground, and it would not hinder Wang Sheng's movement. The premise was that Wang Sheng's speed was fast enough and the contact time was short enough. This was the principle behind Wang Sheng's liquid bulletproof vest. It was usually soft, but the moment it was stabbed by a bullet or a sharp weapon, it would instantly harden. Therefore, the scene that everyone saw was that water vapor was rising under Wang Sheng's feet. But even the soles of the protective boots that were in direct contact with the magma did not show any signs of burning. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Wang Sheng carried the female owner horizontally and used less than 10 seconds to cross the 100-meter-wide magma lake and reach the small flat land on the other side. The moment Wang Sheng picked her up, the female owner's mind went blank. It seemed to be joy, but also shock. But when Wang Sheng carried her into the magma lake, even with her boldness and trust in Wang Sheng, she still involuntarily closed her eyes, stretched out her hands, and tightly hugged Wang Sheng's thick neck and buried her face in Wang Sheng's broad chest. If she had to die, dying together with Wang Sheng was not a bad idea either. At least they were hugging each other tightly without being separated. Before she died, there was still a man who made her feel so safe by her side. It seemed that dying like this was not a pity. But the female owner did not wait for the arrival of death. She only felt that she was moving quickly. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Wang Sheng was about to cross the magma lake with her in his arms. It was not until Wang Sheng placed the female owner on the ground and confirmed that this was not a dream or an illusion that the female owner realized that she was still hugging Wang Sheng's neck tightly and had not let go. And Wang Sheng had to bend down so that she could reach Wang Sheng's neck. "All right, let go." Wang Sheng gently patted the female owner's back and comforted her. Now we can slowly watch the show. The female owner let go of Wang Sheng and carefully looked at herself and Wang Sheng. After making sure that both of them were completely unscathed, she then shifted her gaze to the opposite side. She looked at the new owner's subordinates, who wanted to monitor her and kill her at any time, as if they had turned into blocks of wood. Fei Hu and the rest were indeed stunned. How could this be possible? It was the same earth-fire vein, the same person, and the same protective suit. How could Wang Sheng not be able to cross such a huge earth-fire vein while carrying the female owner, while his subordinates were burnt to ashes just by standing on such a small earth-fire vein? Could it be because they ran fast? Thinking back to Wang Sheng's reckless charge just now, everyone was an expert cultivator. They immediately came to this conclusion. A fifth-degree realm expert guard did not believe it. Since Wang Sheng could cross, then in theory, he should be able to cross as well. He gritted his teeth and called out to his companions. Then he took a few steps back and ran up. He raised his speed to the maximum and rushed towards Wang Sheng's side like Wang Sheng. What he thought was right. But after he rushed in for less than 10 meters, everyone saw that the boots under his feet were already on fire. On the other hand, Wang Sheng was not injured at all. There was not a single flame on his body. If it was only his boots that were on fire, it was not a big problem. As long as he could rush to the other side in time and take off his boots, he would be safe and sound. The problem was, would Wang Sheng allow him to rush over? With a curl of his fingers, a steel ball appeared in his hand. Wang Sheng aimed at the figure of the guard who was running in the magma and flicked it. The steel ball was like a bullet. It flew over a distance of tens of meters and accurately hit the blade in the guard's hand. It was not that Wang Sheng's aim was good and hit the blade of the sword. Instead, it was that the guard had pulled out his long sword while he was running and accurately slashed the steel ball. This set of actions was done in one go. But Wang Sheng did not only have one steel ball, but several. The guard was not simple either. He blocked a few steel balls in a row, but he forgot that he was still standing on the magma and needed to run. The few pauses were enough to set his boots and pants ablaze. The high-temperature flame ignited his shirt. The poor guard was sealed in the magma and burned into a ball of fire. When he realized that something was wrong and knew that he could not rush to the other side, he hurriedly turned back and ran at full speed. He had already missed the best chance to escape. Less than 3 meters away from the magma lake where everyone was standing, the fifth-degree realm guard collapsed. By the side of the lake, a comrade who used a long weapon promptly used his weapon to pull him out of the magma lake. By the time everyone had managed to extinguish the flames on his body, this expert had already suffered over 95% of his body from severe burns. Fortunately, his cultivation was high and he was not dead yet. He was still struggling at death's door. If there was a divine elixir now, and that life rejuvenation pill really had the effect of reviving the dead, perhaps this guard could still live. But the problem was, even though they knew that the divine elixir could be in that stone cave, they could not take it out. They could only watch the guard moaning in pain as his life force faded away bit by bit. Flying Fox glared hatefully at Wang Sheng and the female owner. He walked to the side of the guard who had been burnt. Looking at his pained expression, he gritted his teeth and finished him off with a slash of his sword, giving him a quick death. "Let's break the array. Don't bother about them," Flying Fox ordered through gritted teeth. As long as they got the divine elixir, they would leave immediately. By then, they would see how these two shameless people would suffocate to death in the underground palace. Chapter 4:01. Wang Sheng could still clearly see what was going on over there from a distance of about 500 meters. However, the female host could only listen to Wang Sheng's explanation. At such a distance, and under the illumination of the lava, even Wang Sheng could barely see clearly. He still couldn't see the details. Under the female owner's puzzled gaze, Wang Sheng took out the scope of his M200 and put it in front of his eyes. The scene over there immediately appeared clearly in front of him. The female owner couldn't understand Wang Sheng's state at all. Even though Wang Sheng had created many miracles and had just carried her across the flowing lava, Why was he holding a slender tube in front of him now? Could it be that he could see what was over there with the tube? Flying Fox only sent a guard with the lowest cultivation to keep an eye on Wang Sheng. As long as Wang Sheng didn't come over, they would ignore him. The rest of the people were all arranged by the 4 array masters. Each of them held an array stone and stood in a calculated position. As long as one of the array masters gave the order, they would activate the array stones at the same time. This was a set of array stones used to break array formations by force. It was especially effective against all kinds of sturdy defensive array formations. This kind of array formation would suddenly focus on one point and then break it violently for 2 to 3 breaths' time. Taking advantage of this time, the prepared experts could freely enter and exit the defensive array formation. However, the prerequisite was that they had to be fast enough to complete everything before the defensive array formation recovered. More than 20 people practiced together a few times. When they could activate the array stones at the same time, everyone stood in the calculated position. The array stones were aimed at the defensive array formation at the entrance of the cave, and they were ready to attack. Flying Fox was the only one who didn't hold an array stone. He wanted to break the stone door that sealed the cave the moment everyone broke the array formation at the entrance of the cave. The female owner looked at them with a bored expression. She couldn't see what was happening over there either. Wang Sheng was holding a strange pipe and pointing it in that direction. She didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't talk to her. She didn't have the confidence to run on the earth fire vein like Wang Sheng, so she could only pout and stand by the side helplessly. When Wang Sheng heard the female owner's movements, he smiled slightly and passed the scope to the female owner. Then he guided her step by step to put it in front of her eyes. When the scene of the grotto was clearly presented in front of the female owner, she finally knew what this strange pipe was used for. This time, the female owner directly grabbed the tube and didn't give it to Wang Sheng anymore. She stared at the other side closely, afraid that she would miss any scene. Pong! Dozens of people activating the formation caused quite a commotion. It was as if giant rocks were colliding with each other. However, the scene of the protective formation collapsing that everyone was anticipating did not happen. Forget about collapsing, there wasn't even a small hole in it. They can't break the formation. When the female owner saw this scene, she became happy. These ungrateful people were now tasting the pain of not being able to take the treasure away from them, even though it was right in front of them. It was really satisfying to watch. It's just 1 or 2 hits. Wang Sheng wasn't so optimistic. There were so many experts and 4 formation masters. To break a formation from 500 years ago, not to mention how sturdy the formation was, just the difference of 500 years of research was a huge gap. Wang Sheng had never heard of a formation that could be broken with technology from 500 years later. A lock from 500 years ago couldn't be broken, especially when these people were using brute force to break it. One test couldn't prove anything. For this kind of formation, as long as one found the right direction, the right position, and the right attack frequency, it could be broken. Flying Fox wasn't discouraged. Instead, he continued to order the formation masters to attack again. Pong! There was another shocking commotion. It was as if the entire underground space was shaking. Wang Sheng and the female owner were so far away, but they could feel the tremors in the space. One could only imagine how big the commotion was. Look, they found the trick. Wang Sheng looked over there and said to the female owner beside him. The female owner was extremely unwilling, but she could only accept such a helpless ending. Even though it still didn't break open this time, the tremors that were getting stronger and stronger showed that they were slowly approaching success. When she thought about how the elixir and elixir formula that she wanted to use to make a comeback were going to be taken away by Flying Fox, while she and Wang Sheng were helpless, the female owner felt a wave of helplessness. Why had she worked so hard to arrange all of this? Next, it was Flying Fox who instructed the group of people to experiment continuously. When they were tired, they would stop to rest. When they were well rested, they would continue. Anyway, they didn't have to worry about being discovered in such a huge underground space. They didn't have to worry about the dangers of the grounds of Thousand Despair either. As long as they had enough time, it would be fine. After more than 10 hours, everyone had experimented over 100 times, and the four formation masters had finally found the weak points of the formation. They had also figured out the frequency of the attacks. They had everyone recover immediately, and then they were ready to break the formation. Flying Fox also gathered all the energy in his body, waiting for the final attack to arrive. Boom! The group's attack this time brought about the sound of an invisible barrier collapsing. "It's done!" One of the formation masters cried out in surprise. "Flying Fox, faster!" Flying Fox was already prepared to attack. The moment the formation master's voice came out, his attack had already landed heavily on the stone door of the cave. A stone door that was about a foot thick and carved out of volcanic rock was not a barrier that was difficult to break for a 7th-stage expert. With just one hit from Flying Fox's metal rod, the stone door shattered, revealing the space inside the cave. Chi, an extremely stimulating gas, spurted out from the cave. Flying Fox was prepared and dodged to the side. This space had been sealed for 500 years and needed to breathe. The cave had also been sealed for 500 years, so it needed to breathe too. In just a short while, the protective formation had already been restored. The group was not in a hurry. If they could open it once, they could open it a second time. They just needed to wait for the gas inside to be discharged before they could enter again. They could also take advantage of this time to observe the situation inside. The door of the grotto was facing Wang Sheng and the female owner. With the help of Wang Sheng's scope, the female owner could clearly see the situation inside the grotto. Inside, there was a fire vein of earth fire and an alchemy furnace. Other than that, there was a shining jade box floating on a pattern that was obviously the outline of formation. The jade box was also carved with countless complicated patterns. It was unknown whether it was because of the formation or the materials, but kept shining. Everyone's gaze was focused on the jade box. With such a miraculous display, the group could almost confirm that the elixir they were looking for was in this jade box. Chapter 4:02. Everyone stared greedily at the jade box, each with different thoughts running through their minds. Flying Fox also stared at the jade box, but he thought more and saw more. Apart from the jade box, he could not see the pill formulas that he was looking for from the entrance. Judging from the size of the jade box, excluding the formation that maintained the medicinal effects, there were at most 3 divine pills inside. 3 divine pills could at most save 3 people, but if he had the pill formulas, wouldn't he be able to contribute even more? Flying Fox's gaze swept across the area that he could see from the entrance, but unfortunately, he could not see anything else. This grotto was huge, and there might be more space inside. Perhaps the pill formulas were hidden inside. Thinking about it, it made sense. The earth fire vein was just over there, so the pill formulas had to be kept far away from the earth fire vein to prevent them from being destroyed, right? Thinking of this, Flying Fox's heart was filled with anticipation. If he brought the pill formulas and the divine pills back, what kind of reward would he receive this time? What if he escaped far away with the pill formulas and the divine pills? Seeing that the exhaust was almost done and everyone had rested enough, Flying Fox immediately perked up and ordered everyone to break the formation again. Boom! After another loud sound that shook the entire space, the protective formation in front of the grotto cracked open again. This time, Flying Fox's figure was like an arrow released from a bow as he flew into the grotto. The formation quickly closed up behind him, just as Flying Fox had expected. The moment the door was broken open, there was almost no defense inside. Thinking about it, the formation that maintained the medicinal effects of the pills already took up a lot of space. Wouldn't it be an unnecessary move to set up a protective formation? To that alchemy sect, if the enemy had already fought their way here, would it make a difference whether the things inside were protected or not? If they had to set up a formation, it should be a destructive one, not a protective one. However, would a group of highly skilled alchemists be willing to have the pill formulas that they had spent their entire lives researching destroyed? Would they be willing to have the perfect products that they had spent their entire lives collecting and refined destroyed? Obviously, the answer was no. As soon as the Flying Fox rushed in, he saw a neatly arranged rack of animal skin scrolls after turning a corner. This shelf was also protected by an array formation, but it was not a defensive array formation. Instead, it was an array formation that protected the scrolls from the corrosion of time and from being destroyed by the high heat of the earth fire vein. As expected, Flying Fox looked at the dozens of animal skin scrolls on the shelf and laughed. He stepped forward and touched the formation slightly. After confirming that there were no traps, he quickly took the scrolls from the shelf and put them into his storage ring without checking them. Because there were too many scrolls, and Flying Fox's storage ring was too small, he had no choice but to use 2 storage rings to store all the scrolls. After packing up the scrolls, Flying Fox turned to the jade box floating in the air. This array formation was very strange. It seemed that the array formation on the ground could resonate with the array formation on the box, allowing the box to float in the air. The Flying Fox's hand was already not far from the box, and it was moving along with the rhythm of the box's movement. All of a sudden, Flying Fox's hand shot out like lightning and quickly removed the jade box from the formation. The array formation below suddenly lost the resonance of the array formation on the box above. Instantly, it seemed as if it had lost an important core. The patterns on the bottom flickered a few times and then became incomparably dim. Flying Fox gestured to the people outside and stored the jade box in his storage ring. Then, he concentrated and waited for the array formation to be broken again before he rushed out. The people outside had actually seen Flying Fox put away the jade box. Under the guidance of the array formation master, he rested for a moment before activating the array stone again. Accompanied by the rumbling sound of the array formation being broken, Flying Fox's figure dashed out of the stone cave. However, before he could regain his footing, at least 4 swords and sabers attacked Flying Fox. Among the 4 array formation masters, 2 of them suddenly activated an array formation that bound everyone inside. As expected of Flying Fox, he was the one with the highest cultivation in the group. He seemed to have anticipated this sudden attack. The short rod in his hand knocked away 3 weapons in a row, and the last strike landed solidly on the body of the guard who was closest to him. I knew there was something wrong with you. The sound of bones breaking could be heard from the guard who was hit, and at the same time, Flying Fox's cold words could be heard. As soon as they attacked, the stunned guards immediately reacted. They immediately took out their weapons and attacked the 3 guards and the 2 array formation masters. Flying Fox was surrounded, and it was obvious that these people were enemies. Your people! Wang Sheng and the female owner watched from afar from the other side of the lava lake. Wang Sheng did not seem to be surprised at all and only asked calmly. Yes. The female owner's tone was slightly apologetic. This was the only trump card she had. Even if it was Wang Sheng, she did not tell Wang Sheng everything. This concealment was also the reason why she felt guilty. What a pity! Wang Sheng did not hide the regret in his tone and sighed with emotion. Why? The female owner asked in confusion. Wasn't this the right time to attack? The others were exhausted after activating the array stone, and Flying Fox had just gotten the item and was excited. He did not expect someone to attack. Wasn't this the best time to attack? You didn't even confirm whether the item Flying Fox got was correct before attacking. Wang Sheng shook his head and gave his reasoning. Your men concealed their cultivation. Could it be that what Flying Fox displayed was his real cultivation? The people who attacked were a few ordinary guards, and they did not even reach the 5th degree realm. But the attack power they showed was at least at the 6th degree realm. The problem was that Flying Fox and the other experts showed that they were not just at the 7th degree realm. The 6 people who attacked lasted less than 10 minutes before they were killed by Flying Fox and the others. The female owner watched from afar, but she could only watch in vain. She was so anxious that tears almost flowed down her face. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any ideas? The female owner anxiously tugged at Wang Sheng's hand and kept asking questions. The loyal subordinates she had worked so hard to gather were being slaughtered over there, yet she could do nothing about it. This feeling made the female owner fall into despair. Wang Sheng only shook his head. He also had no ideas. At such a distance, The sniper rifle could deal with some ordinary guards, but it was useless against an expert like Flying Fox. Flying Fox was already laughing smugly on the other side. He had achieved his goal, and he even got rid of the spies in the team. It cannot be more perfect. As long as they left and sealed Wang Sheng and the female owner in the underground palace, they could only suffocate to death. Just as Flying Fox was feeling smug, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 403. Having just killed 6 spies, everyone, including Flying Fox, felt a lingering fear in their hearts, but at the same time, they were extremely glad. If they had not jumped out at this moment, but when the experts were about to push open the stone door, they might have succeeded. Just as they were feeling complacent, suddenly, there was a series of continuous screams from within the group. 3 ghostly figures flashed out from behind the stone pillars that no one had noticed, rushed into the group, and began a frenzied massacre. In just a few moves, half of the group of about 20 people had fallen. The rest were basically the expert guards, led by Flying Fox. The other party's attack was very purposeful, which was to kill the weakest people in the shortest time possible, and then turn around to deal with those with higher cultivation. At this time, Flying Fox and the others could clearly see the 3 figures. Unfortunately, all 3 of them were wearing bamboo hats and veils, and their faces could not be seen clearly through the veils. Baoqin Yutang is handling matters. Please do us a favor. Our boss will definitely reward you handsomely. Flying Fox led the remaining 10 experts and confronted the 3 people. Facing such strong enemies, Flying Fox was also unwilling to fight to the death and only shouted out the name of his back, hoping to ease the situation. As he shouted, Flying Fox pondered in his heart, could this be the female boss's secret plan? To make everyone lower their guard, then make a sudden attack. For this, she was even willing to use the lives of a few of her companions as bait to make them slack off. It was indeed terrifying. In Flying Fox's heart, these 3 people could only be the female boss's subordinates. Along the way, other than the female boss and the hidden spy who could leave a secret mark for these experts to slowly track. Who else could do this? Could it be Wang Sheng? Wang Sheng could not be. Flying Fox immediately ruled out Wang Sheng. If Wang Sheng wanted to plot against them, all he had to do was hide in the dark with his super strong bodyguard. That way, everyone here would die without a trace. Baoqin Yutang was also a person with an intelligence network, and that super strong guard was actually a legendary red card killer from decades ago. If this kind of expert really made a move, would they have any chance of survival? Therefore, these 3 people could only be the female owner subordinates. The other party's cultivation was extremely high. Flying Fox had just faced one of them, and the result was that the 2 of them were actually evenly matched. That one looked like the weakest of the 3, but Fei, who was the strongest among Baoqin Yutang's experts. Cut the crap. Leave behind the elixir and the pill formula, and I'll spare your lives. The 3 people who jumped out at this moment were, of course, the 3 top exponents from the Song family. The 9th stage realm commander didn't want to waste any more time and directly stated his motive. A few hours ago, the 3 of them followed the stone path and arrived at the underground space. However, at that time, Fei Hu and the others were working hard to break the formation of the stone cave. The 3 of them had such high cultivation levels that they could casually find a few stone pillars to cover themselves, and those people would not be able to detect them. In the underground space, which was several miles wide, it was extremely easy to hide 3 9th and 8th stage realm experts. They had been watching the show, and although they didn't catch the most exciting part of Wang Sheng's mad dash towards the magma lake, but Fei Hu and the others had been researching the process of breaking the formation, so they had seen it all. Regarding this, the 3 of them didn't disturb Fei Hu and the others. With such good free labor to help them open the door, why would they still need to waste their energy? It was until Fei Hu rushed in to retrieve the elixir and the pill formula that the 3 of them saw the scene of the traitor making a move. Although it wasn't that exciting, it was enough for the 3 of them to be fully prepared and occupy the best position to make a move. When Fei Hu and the others had killed the traitor and relaxed their mood, They made a move and killed half of them. When he heard that the other party also wanted the elixir and the pill formula, Feihu knew that there was no way to be friendly. Previously, he was still lucky that a few insignificant guards had died, and he could still get a few less rewards. But now, it seemed that he had no choice but to risk his life. He didn't expect the female owner to secretly recruit such an expert. The remaining people also knew that they had to risk their lives. If they didn't, everyone would probably die here. Following Feihu's command, everyone pounced towards the 3 people. 3 against 1, 4 against 1. In any case, they had to separate the 3 people and kill them separately. It didn't matter, even if they were injured. Feihu had 3 8th stage realm experts on his side, and each of them would deal with 1 enemy. Coupled with the help of 2 to 3 6th stage realm guards, they didn't dare to say that victory was in their grasp, but it wouldn't be a problem for them to hold on for a period of time. As long as one of the groups dealt with the enemy, they would be able to free up their hands to help. After all, they had more people on their side. However, when Feihu directly faced the 9th stage realm commander, Feihu immediately realized his mistake. It was just a frontal attack, and the short rod in Feihu's hand was deflected by the commander. The terrifying spiritual energy caused his entire arm to go numb. Before his arm could recover, one of his subordinates beside him had already flown out with a bang. A 6th stage realm expert couldn't even withstand a single blow from the opponent. He was still flying in the air when he lost consciousness. When Feihu saw the terrifying opponent grab his other subordinate's fist with one hand and swing him up, he already knew that they were going to lose this time. The opponent was most likely a legendary 9th stage realm expert. Even if he had 100 subordinates, they wouldn't be a match for the opponent. Thinking of this, Feihu instantly made a decision. He continued to shout, as if he wanted to rush forward again. However, he used all his strength and sprinted toward the magma lake. Perhaps with Wang Sheng's method, he could block these 3 terrifying experts on this side of the magma lake. He could also hold the female owner hostage and fight for a chance of survival. Even if he couldn't escape in the end, such a large magma lake was enough for him to throw the storage ring containing the pill formulas and elixirs into it and destroy it. If he couldn't get it, no one else could either. However, he had only taken a few steps when a sharp, piercing sound came from behind him. Without thinking, Feihu hurriedly dodged to the side. A long sword brushed past his body and shot forward. Looking at the style of the long sword, it was the weapon of the last subordinate who had surrounded the commander with him. His body bent, and his speed naturally decreased. Before Feihu could increase his speed again, the owner of the long sword had already flown towards him. It wasn't the subordinate who jumped up, but the sword was thrown over. Just as Feihu dodged the fierce blow from the subordinate's body, the terrifying enemy had already appeared behind Feihu and landed a heavy punch on his back. Uffed. Feihu spat out a mouthful of blood, along with a few pieces of his internal organs. Chapter 404. Even an 8th degree realm flying fox would not be able to withstand the full force of a 9th degree realm expert's attack. But even though he was seriously injured and had vomited out his innards, Flying Fox still held on to his last breath and threw the 10 storage rings toward the nearby earth fire vein that was bubbling with lava. The commander did not manage to defend against this move. Seeing that the storage rings were about to be thrown into the earth fire vein, he could not be bothered with another attack and hurriedly rushed out to catch the 10 storage rings in the air. Just as the commander was scrambling to catch the 4th storage ring, his mind suddenly went blank. He had been tricked. As soon as he turned around, he saw that Flying Fox had already tossed 5 storage rings into the earth fire vein in another direction. This time, the commander could not be bothered with the remaining storage rings and used all his strength to rush towards that direction. When he passed by the Flying Fox, he didn't forget to step heavily on the Flying Fox's head, causing it to explode. Even though the commander had rushed fast enough, he only managed to snatch 2 of the 5 storage rings that the Flying Fox had tossed out. The remaining 3 all fell into the earth fire vein. Without waiting for the commander to use his dagger to pick them out, they had already disappeared into a sudden lava bubble. Out of the 10 storage rings thrown in front, the remaining 6 had the same result. Standing in the middle of the 2 earth fire veins, the commander could even hear the loud popping sounds of his storage ring being burned by the earth fire veins and the items inside exploding. Unfortunately, even if the items exploded, they were all in the magma. No matter how high the commander's cultivation was, he was not high enough to reach into the magma to retrieve the items. It was all because of Flying Fox. The commander looked at Flying Fox, whose head had been crushed by him, and wished he could tear him into pieces and grind his bones into ashes. Unfortunately, no matter how much he vented his anger, he could not change the fact that it had already happened. The 2 subordinates were still wrapping up the fight, but the battle had already ended. Bao Qing Yutang's team was completely annihilated. Those who were still alive had also lost their ability to fight and were being stabbed by 2 8th-degree realm experts from the Song family one by one. The commander suppressed his irritation and began to check the storage rings in his hands one by one. After checking the 3rd one, the commander's face revealed an expression of pleasant surprise. Inside the storage ring, there were many scrolls. Just the warmth of the scrolls alone was enough to tell the commander that they had been taken from that cave not long ago. By the time he checked the 5th one, the commander could no longer suppress his joy and cried out in delight. It was clear that the jade box was inside the storage ring. Flying Fox racked his brains to destroy all of these items before he died. He even used some tricks. Unfortunately, the heavens were not on his side. The storage ring that the commander had randomly snatched back actually contained the most important item. In the other storage rings, there were only some insignificant things like food, water, and medicinal herbs. The commander put them away without hesitation, then continued to search the Flying Fox's body. The 3 experts from the Song family all acted in the same way. Each of them searched the bodies of the dead Bao Qing Yutang's guards for spoils of war, to ensure that nothing was left behind. After checking carefully once, the 3 of them did not give up and went to check the huge pile of caves one by one. After spending more than 2 hours, they finally finished their search. In the end, only the largest cave that was sealed by the array was left, and the 3 of them gathered at that place. The stone door of the cave had already been broken, and the scene inside was clear at a glance. Other than not being able to see the situation after the turn, there was nothing special. They had already obtained the divine elixirs, and even the pill formulas were the size of a storage ring. The harvest from this trip could be said to be perfect. The only thing that they had not completed was to take the opportunity to kill Wang Sheng. However, the 3 of them were actually very curious. How did Wang Sheng and the female owner cross the over 100 meters earth fire vein to the other end? Could it be that they walked over the earth fire vein? Even though they were dying of curiosity, the 3 of them did not forget the main goal of this trip. Seeing that Wang Sheng and the female owner were still calm and unruffled, as if they were not afraid of them going over, the commander pondered for a while and shook his head. He still decided to give up on killing Wang Sheng. There was no benefit to it. In any case, they would not make a move. Leaving Wang Sheng here to fend for himself was not considered doing nothing. As long as the 2 huge and heavy stone doors were closed, would Wang Sheng and the female owner still be able to come out? In this land of 1,000 extremes, even if there was a group of shopkeepers waiting outside, with the cultivation of those few fatties, it would be considered good if they could survive in the land of 1,000 extremes. Young master, you're on your own. The commander cupped his hands towards Wang Sheng on the other side of the lava lake and said loudly. Then, he turned around and left with his 2 subordinates. Haiduke Song was still waiting for the elixir to save his life. They had to hurry back as soon as possible. After watching the 3 experts leave, the female owner angrily returned the scope to Wang Sheng. She had no choice but to return it. Wang Sheng had already stretched out his hand to take it. After returning the item, the female owner did not hide her anger and asked, "Song family member?" She still calls you young master. Miss Song really cares about you. In this world, only people from the Song family would call Wang Sheng young master. Wang Sheng looked at them and felt that it was funny. Song Honda had schemed to kill him, but these subordinates seemed to be willing to let him live to ease the relationship between them. It was really interesting, seeing through the scope that the three of them walked into the long, dark staircase. Wang Sheng finally heaved a sigh of relief. If the commander and the others had rushed over, Wang Sheng would only have been able to block one of them. The remaining two would definitely be able to kill Wang Sheng and the female owner easily. Now that they were safe for the time being, Wang Sheng found a place to sit down. Although the temperature was not low, it was more comfortable and relaxing than standing. Are we just going to let them take the item away? The female owner was very unwilling, but she had no other choice. She could only sit beside Wang Sheng and ask unwillingly, "Then what else do you want?" Wang Sheng asked back. Among the three from the Song family, at least one of them is a ninth-degree realm expert. Can you beat him? The female owner was just saying it. In fact, she knew better than Wang Sheng that this operation was a complete failure. The men she had planted had all been killed. She and Wang Sheng were still trapped here. Even getting out would be a problem. Don't be too sad. Wang Sheng saw that the female owner was a little depressed and thought that she was mourning for her subordinates. He comforted her. Even if they didn't make a move, Flying Fox wouldn't have killed them. The Song family would have killed them. You can't save them. This was the truth. The female owner finally felt that there was no need to feel so sad. Looking at the indifferent face of Wang Sheng, she asked curiously, "Aren't you worried?" "Worried about what?" Wang Sheng asked. "Worried that I'll find something better?" The female owner's eyes lit up. Chapter 405. What better things? The female owner immediately asked excitedly. The depression she felt just now instantly disappeared without a trace. Let me ask you. Think about it carefully. Wang Sheng did not treat the female owner like an outsider. He asked directly, "Tell me, was it easy to enter this underground palace?" The female owner pondered for a while before answering reluctantly. It was too easy. If it was so easy to enter, why didn't anyone rush down and open the cave a few hundred years ago? Wang Sheng asked again. This time, the female owner was still racking her brains to think about it. At the same time, she was also recalling the records of the ruins map that she had obtained. After a while, she said doubtfully, "I've checked some records. It seems that the tunnel outside is very dangerous. Even if an outsider could open the stone door, they would most likely die in that tunnel." The female owner wasn't spouting nonsense. There were actual records of it. Wang Sheng agreed with this point. That tunnel is more than 10 miles long. It is completely dark without any light. If there were traps around the tunnel, not many experts would survive. Wang Sheng followed the female owner's words and said, "This could explain why no one could rush in at that time. The destruction of this alchemy sect was around the same time as the destruction of the Lin family. The location was also similar. Perhaps this sect was a subsidiary sect of the Lin family. It was just not as famous as the Red Bear clan and the Divine Eagle prison. If this sect was destroyed, as long as someone was in the underground palace controlling the mechanisms of the tunnel, outsiders would not be able to enter at all. After a period of time, the entire grounds of despair would slowly become a land of despair because of the many arrays. Naturally, no one would have any designs on this sect. Hence, this underground palace was left to Bao Qin. After all, it was a tunnel that had their own people entering and exiting. Those killing arrays could not be activated like the arrays that maintain the medicinal effects. Hence, it must be controlled by someone. If there was no one controlling it, it would be useless. This was also the reason why Wang Sheng and Bao Qin Yutang's people could swagger in. The female host had also thought of this, but what did this have to do with the better things that Wang Sheng had mentioned? If you were to hide something in this underground palace, where would you choose to hide the most precious thing? Wang Sheng seemed to have completely grasped the female host's doubts. He asked in a timely manner to stimulate the female host to think. "Of course, it's that grotto," the female owner replied without hesitation. After saying that, he realized that Wang Sheng definitely didn't want this answer, so he started to think again. That stone cave was the largest, there was no doubt about it. As long as they searched all the small stone caves and alchemy rooms, they would eventually find the big stone cave. From this point of view, the grotto's concealment was lacking. Since that was the case, if it was him, would he put the sex elixirs and elixirs there? After pondering for a while, the female owner could not help but come to a depressing conclusion. She herself would not have chosen such an obvious place to store her important items. Instead, it was very likely that they would set up a trap there and use it to attract people's attention. The real good things would definitely have to be found elsewhere. Thinking of this, the female owner became more and more excited. If that was the case, then whether it was Flying Fox or the Song family, didn't they just find the location of a trap and obtain some bait? The real good things were actually still in this underground space. I will consider putting it in a place where no one will notice. The female owner looked at the underground space that was glowing with a dark red light and suddenly said excitedly, "Maybe the place that we just came out of is not bad. No one will notice that place. Or it could be any ordinary alchemy room. As long as it is well disguised, it will be easy for others to overlook it." Clap, 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 clap. It was Wang Sheng who was applauding the female owner's guess. If Flying Fox was half as smart as you, he wouldn't have been so stupid as to let others cut him off. The female owner was a little embarrassed. Previously, she had thought exactly the same as Flying Fox. She had been completely attracted by that grotto and did not think deeper. If not for Wang Sheng's reminder, the female owner would not have thought of this at all. Of course, the environment here meant that other than those grottos, there was no other suitable place. Could it be that they could hide the things in the earth-fire vein? Once this thought came to mind, the female owner could no longer suppress it. This alchemy sect could already use the earth-fire vein to refine pills. Could it be that they could really hide the most precious things in the earth-fire vein? As she thought of this, she could not help but ask, hide the pill recipe in the magma that was more than 1,200 degrees Celsius? Wang Sheng looked at the female owner's wild imagination and was really speechless. It was good to be diligent in thinking, but to think too much was obviously delusional. Not to mention this world. Even when Wang Sheng was on Earth, no one had thought of placing medicinal ingredients in an environment with a temperature of more than 1,200 degrees Celsius. Looking at Wang Sheng's expression, the female owner knew that she had asked a stupid question. Luckily, with the veil covering her face, Wang Sheng could not see the blush on the female owner's face. What you said before was right. Those few places that people would not pay attention to are good places to hide things. But Wang Sheng dragged the word, but at the end to attract the female owner's attention. Then he slowly said, "Those places are just unexpected. But as long as someone stays here for a long time, they will definitely notice it. Especially at the entrance, there will always be someone presiding over the array of the passage, so it is not very suitable. A normal alchemy room is not suitable either." Wang Sheng paused for a moment to let the female owner think about it. Then he continued, "As long as someone is refining pills inside, it will not take long for them to notice the abnormality." The female owner nodded, agreeing with Wang Sheng's point of view. The two places that she had chosen just now were just unexpected and ingenious hiding, but it was not sustainable and long enough, nor was it safe. Her gaze swept through the underground space again, and there was really no suitable place. The female owner could only look at the pitch-black passage. In a long and dark passage, it should be enough to hide as sex treasures, right? Wang Sheng also followed the female owner's gaze and looked at the passage. He nodded slightly and said, "The passage is indeed a good place, but have you forgotten that there's another place that is more suitable?" Chapter 406. There's another place? The female owner scanned the entire underground space again to make sure that she didn't miss any corner. Then, she asked curiously, "Where?" Wang Sheng stomped on the ground and suddenly laughed. "Here." "Here?" The female owner heard the sound of Wang Sheng stomping his feet, and her gaze was attracted over. Hearing Wang Sheng's answer, she couldn't help but cry out in surprise. "How is that possible? Why is it not possible?" Wang Sheng asked with a smile. "Give me a reason why it is not possible." "Here." The female owner only said two words, and suddenly couldn't continue. Because she suddenly realized that all the flaws that she had mentioned before were all present in this place. First of all, it was unexpected. This was definitely at the top of the list. Who would have thought that someone would hide something in this place after crossing a magma lake? You could see the entire place with one glance, and it didn't seem like there was any condition to hide anything. But because of this, people would give up at first glance. What was there to see in such an empty place? No one would have thought that the good stuff was really hidden here. No one could think of this immediately. This was already a sufficient advantage. Moreover, this place also fulfilled the second condition that Wang Sheng mentioned. It was sufficiently safe. If she hadn't experienced it herself, even if her most trusted subordinate suddenly ran over and told her that a person carried another person and ran across a magma lake, the female owner would definitely wait for the subordinate to finish speaking and then give him a solid slap in the face. Even if one wanted to fabricate a story, they had to come up with evidence, right? Running across a magma lake? Wouldn't jumping into the magma be directly swallowed by the magma? On this point, the female owner and many people on Earth had made an obvious cognitive error. In some movies on Earth, whether it was the demon Terminator jumping into molten steel or Gru jumping into volcanic magma, they would slowly sink and be swallowed by the magma or molten steel. In reality, this wasn't the case. If the Terminator was just a steel skeleton, it might be possible, but Gru would definitely be burned to ashes above the magma, just like the guards who were burned to death by the earth fire. Since no one could think of it, then outsiders would definitely not dare to take the risk and run across the lava lake. Especially after Wang Sheng deliberately threw a wooden stick, a stone, and a dagger, which were all melted and burned in the magma. The guards were prejudiced. None of them thought that Wang Sheng would be able to rush through. When they saw Wang Sheng rushing over, they would have no chance to go over. Wang Sheng would do everything he could to stop them from running over. Moreover, Wang Sheng did not need to exert much effort. He only needed to let them stay on the lava for a few more seconds. From this point of view, this place was safe enough. Moreover, since that alchemy sect had been refining the earth fire vein for so long, they must have figured out the characteristics of the earth fire vein. Maybe someone knew that the magma lake could run over, so it was logical to hide something here. However, this place was completely empty. Could it be that they had dug a hole to hide the sect's inheritance? The female owner couldn't help but sweep her gaze downwards. She wanted to see which part of the ground was different so that she could find the real hidden treasures of the sect. After a few glances, she couldn't see anything different. The female owner simply stood up and walked from one end to the other. She almost looked at the ground inch by inch to see if there was anything unusual. Every few steps she took, she would stomp her feet and listen to see if there was an empty hole below. This scene directly made Wang Sheng dumbfounded. He stared dumbfoundedly at the female owner who was walking and jumping over there. After a while, the female owner then noticed Wang Sheng's gaze. In addition, she didn't find anything. She was a little embarrassed and walked back to Wang Sheng's side with her head lowered. She leaned against Wang Sheng and sat down. With such a smart guy like Wang Sheng around, why would she waste this time on herself? Anyway, she was wearing protective clothing, so it was okay to sit on the ground. In a land of thousand despair, she was already used to sitting on tree stumps and grass. However, the female owner leaned against Wang Sheng so naturally, but she didn't even realize it herself. Perhaps it was because Wang Sheng had hugged the female owner before, and it was a life-saving grace. The female owner had completely let down her guard against Wang Sheng. Leaning against Wang Sheng, her movements were so natural that Wang Sheng could even feel the softness and elasticity of her body. Say, back then, they didn't wear these protective clothing like you did. How did they run over here? After the female owner sat down, she leaned against Wang Sheng and asked curiously. She was very curious about this question. Who said that they ran over here? Wang Sheng laughed. Sometimes, the female owner really thought far ahead. She even wanted to clarify things that happened hundreds of years ago. Didn't they? The female owner was stunned. If those alchemists 500 years ago had never crossed the magma lake, how did they hide the things here? If it was you, Would you dare to jump in here before you saw me run past? Wang Sheng raised his chin and pointed at the magma lake in front of them. I wouldn't dare. The female owner shook her head immediately. Even if I saw you run past, I wouldn't dare to run. Then why do you think that someone would dare to run here 500 years ago? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. Moreover, even if they learned from me, they might not be able to run here. Running on magma also required skills and knowledge. It wasn't just about being fast. Other than having to be fast and stay in contact with the magma for a short time, one had to first find the red spots. Compared to the bright spots, the red spots had a lower temperature. Secondly, one had to keep adding water so that the water would instantly vaporize and carry away a large amount of heat. In addition, one had to take precautions so that the clothes on one's body wouldn't be ignited. The guard who didn't rush over made these few mistakes. After being blocked by Wang Sheng for 2 seconds, his whole body was on fire. Wang Sheng didn't think that the alchemists 500 years ago had such courage and knowledge. If I didn't come over, how could I hide things here? The female owner asked confidently. This is what you said. This is a suitable place to hide things. Wang Sheng slapped his forehead and closed his eyes. The female owner looked so smart. How did she suddenly become so stupid? Look at this place. It's bare and almost a complete piece. How could there be anything underground? Wang Sheng decided not to keep her in suspense and told the female owner the answer. The female owner looked over, and it was indeed so. The flat ground they were on seemed to be a piece of cooled magma. It was a complete piece. If that was the case, it wouldn't be easy to hide things underground. However, if it wasn't underground, could it be in the sky? Thinking of this, the female owner raised her head and looked. This was the edge of the underground space. Could it be hidden at the side or above? Wang Sheng didn't care about the female owner's actions at all. He casually picked up a fist-sized stone beside him and held it in his hand. There's no need to dig a hole or dig a cave. There's also no need to risk your life by running over the fire vein. Wang Sheng gave the answer. You just have to stuff the thing into the storage ring and throw it over from there. It's very easy, right? Chapter 407. Wang Sheng said it very simply, and it did sound very simple. In this origin spirit world, as long as one cultivated to the first stage, one's physique would be even stronger than Wang Sheng's special forces soldiers who had trained for a long time on Earth. Throwing a storage ring over 100 meters away was not a problem at all. It was something that couldn't be any easier, not to mention a warrior like Wang Sheng. Even a weak-looking woman like the female owner would not have any difficulty dealing with her. The female owner was stunned. Such a simple logic, such an easy method. Why didn't she think of it? Why was it that she, who had always prided herself on being smart, always behaved like a silly girl in front of Wang Sheng? After being stunned, the female owner regained her spirit. She jumped up and searched the ground inch by inch from left to right. A storage ring was not very big. It might have fallen into a crack in the stone. Looking at this scene, Wang Sheng shook his head again. However, he did not stop her and let the female owner continue to search. He took the stone and threw it up and down, weighing it. This place was not big, at most a few hundred square meters. Even if the female owner checked inch by inch, it would not take much time. Very quickly, she returned to Wang Sheng's side dejectedly and sat down. Where is it? The female owner was disappointed again and again. Her tone was very dispirited. Could it be that when I threw it, I did not throw it accurately and it fell into the fire vein? When the storage rings that Flying Fox threw fell into the fire vein, they heard the explosion clearly. At this time, the female owner also began to worry about her gains and losses. Throwing the storage ring directly over, isn't it too easy to be discovered? Wang Sheng smiled bitterly again. This woman, she was not even worried about her own current situation. She was actually worried about whether the person from 500 years ago threw the storage ring accurately or not. He really had to give it to her. She was a typical person who valued money more than her life. She was indeed a natural profiteer. You were the one who said to throw the storage ring over. The female owner was a little anxious. This was clearly what Wang Sheng said. Why did he not admit it now? Such a small storage ring. I'm afraid it won't be able to hold one. There'll be at least 4 or 5 storage rings. Wang Sheng explained patiently. 4 or 5 storage rings are thrown over. Even if they're so far away, there's no guarantee that someone with good eyesight will notice, right? The female owner imagined herself standing in front of the flying fox. Since she could see the flying fox throw out the storage ring from where she was standing, the other side would definitely be able to see it too. In that case, this method might not be so safe. No, stand up. The female owner suddenly realized that she had missed a place when she was checking. It was the place where Wang Sheng was sitting. She couldn't help but ask Wang Sheng to move away. Wang Sheng pursed his lips. Without saying a word, he propped himself up and walked to the side. The female host was unwilling to give up. She looked at the place where Wang Sheng had just sat. She couldn't help but be disappointed. It was empty, no different from any other place. It seems that you guessed wrong, the female owner said to Wang Sheng. She was a little stubborn after not admitting defeat. I've already told you that throwing the storage ring over will be seen. Wang Sheng explained again. If it were you, couldn't you think of another way? What way? The female owner didn't have the mood to jump up and search excitedly this time. She just sat there and asked in a muffled voice. For example, using something to disguise it. Wang Sheng reminded. What kind of disguise can I use? The female owner replied lazily. If the disguise isn't good, it'll be easier to be discovered. Unless what? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. Unless it's something that's already here. The female owner wasn't a fool after all. She looked at the stone in Wang Sheng's hand and understood a lot. She should have seen it long ago. The female owner scolded in her heart. From the beginning to the end, Wang Sheng didn't touch anything here. He just picked up the stone. It was such an obvious hint, but she didn't notice it, especially since the entire ground in this area was hardened together. The only stone that wasn't too big or too small was the one in Wang Sheng's hand. It was so special. She should have seen it long ago, but Wang Sheng actually took it first. You mean this? Wang Sheng picked up the stone and showed it to her. The female owner nodded and stared at the stone in Wang Sheng's hand. Wang Sheng simply handed the stone to her so that she could take a closer look. After taking the stone, the female owner looked at it from top to bottom for a while. She couldn't see anything wrong with the stone. This was a complete volcanic rock without any gaps. She weighed it, and it was an ordinary weight. From the appearance, there was no problem at all. Could it be that I guessed wrong? The female owner was puzzled. After looking at the stone carefully, she handed it back to Wang Sheng. In fact, Wang Sheng held the stone and said slowly to the female owner, "You guessed it right." He exerted force with his fingers, and the fist-sized volcanic rock directly shattered. The outer layer of the volcanic rock quickly fell off, revealing an even smaller iron ball inside. Iron ball. The female owner immediately saw the problem. The outer layer of the volcanic rock was actually an iron ball. How did this happen? However, standing at the edge of the magma lake, she quickly figured out the key point. Those people must have made the iron ball first and put the storage ring inside. Then, the iron ball only needed to be dipped in the magma. After the magma cooled down, it would become a complete volcanic rock. As for the storage ring that was afraid of the magma's high heat, as long as it was filled with insulating materials, it would naturally be safe. Wang Sheng exerted force again, and the outer layer of the iron ball quickly deformed and tore apart, revealing a ball of unknown powder stuffed inside. Within the powder, there were 5 objects that looked exactly like storage rings. How did you know? The female owner watched as Wang Sheng took out the storage rings from the powder one by one. Her eyes were fixed on them, and she didn't want to look away at all. At the same time, she asked in confusion. One had to know that she looked very carefully in her hand just now, but she didn't expect that there would be something inside. She couldn't determine that there was something inside before she even opened it. It's simple, Wang Sheng replied with a smile. There are storage rings inside, so you can't put it into another storage ring. You just have to try and see if you can put the stone into my storage ring. The female owner was really speechless this time. From the beginning to the end, Wang Sheng's performance had always been that of a monster. She should have known that such a monster was a monster long ago. She should have known it from the time he took out the method of making snow candy and refined salt. Only now did she completely confirm that it really shouldn't be. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.